Welcome to the fantasy audiobook, Uchiha Family's Reincarnation. Chapter 21. Apart from anything else, just from the clothes he was wearing, even if he couldn't recognize the Uchiha clan emblem, he could tell that the fabric was good and he had a certain identity. It was obvious that this servant had little discernment. In other words, he is used to being domineering. However, it is normal for people in rural towns to have little eyesight, but a servant also has this attitude towards people outside, which shows that this family is not much better. But the reply from Konoha was that there would be a Jonin team coming to carry out the mission. Do you think that with the little silver you offer, you can really get the Jonin to take action? A look of embarrassment appeared on Tobita Yuichi's face. It would be nice to hire powerful ninjas, but he couldn't bear to give up the money. Tishi town was impoverished, and he had only plundered a small amount of silver in total. He was just a low-level nobleman who could not get an official position in Kyoto. He just returned to his fiefdom, and he was really reluctant to leave. But, you shouldn't just send a teenage boy. You don't have to doubt my abilities. Ming Jing stopped and said calmly. Even if you doubt it, you can't doubt the clan emblem on my body, let alone the ability of my eyes. Ming Jing closed and opened his eyes, revealing his Sharingan. At this time, Uchiha's reputation should be more useful. Sure enough, when he saw the Sharingan, Tobita Yu's expression suddenly changed and he forced out a smile. Ming Jing didn't say anything, but he really didn't notice the red and white group fan clan emblem on Ming Jing's clothes. It turns out he is a ninja from the Uchiha clan. I can rest assured. In the land of fire, no matter how remote the place you live, you may not know who the third Hokage is, but it is impossible not to know the reputation of the Uchiha clan. Because this is the prestige that the Uchiha clan has built up with its strength over the past 1,000 years. It is deeply rooted in the hearts of the entire ninja world, especially in the land of fire. Of course, Tobita Yuichi had another consideration in mind. With the pride of the Uchiha clan, other tasks can be paid off, but if this C-level and D-level task really cannot be completed, all he needs to do is publicize it, then those Uchiha people will naturally feel that this is detrimental to Uchiha. Because of his reputation, he will help him solve his problems even if he is cheating. These words were all heard by Tobita Yuichi from other nobles when he was living in Kyoto when he was young. Don't worry. Besides, I'm not the only one doing the mission. Others are still out collecting information about bandits. I came here to see if I can get some useful information from you. Easy to say, easy to say. If this ninja-sama wants to ask anything, I will tell you everything. Ninja-sama, do you think we should have a banquet to entertain you first? There's no rush, let's talk about the information first. The next day, Inazuka looked dumbly at the table full of delicacies in front of him, looking past the girl who was picking shrimps next to him and towards the mirror. I was in a tavern in the town, using my sense of smell that was tens of thousands times stronger than that of a normal person, enduring the smell of sweat from a group of big men to get information. Nami, a little girl, was lying alone outside the town, scouting the terrain with bugs. But you spent a whole day enjoying this kind of thing in the Lord's mansion. Inazuka looked at the scene around him and found that his knowledge were a little shallow, and he couldn't find good words to describe it. Actually, I quite like the company of bugs. Aburame Nami suddenly interjected, then continued to pick up the tempura from the dinner plate, put it in her mouth, and started chewing. Do you not like it? Ming Jing also picked up a crystal shrimp dumpling and asked Inazuka. Inazukaru looked stunned for a moment and said hurriedly. Although a ninja must have the ability to endure all hardships and dangers, he is usually under a lot of pressure. It's okay to relax a little. It's just that I'm worried about Mr. Duan. It's okay. We can pack the food and take it back later. Ming Jing waved his hand and said. Makes sense. Inazuka nodded in approval, and just when he was about to enjoy these delicacies with peace of mind, his movements suddenly stopped. Master Ninja, but the food is not to your liking. If you are not satisfied, you can arrange for the kitchen to cook something else. Oh, our Ironstone town is just a small place. It cannot compare to Kyoto and Konoha. We only have so much food to entertain you. Dear ninjas. Yuichi Tobita, who had been paying attention to the situation here, noticed the situation here and walked over with a glass of wine. It's nothing, I just think that when we come here, we should complete the task as soon as possible. Inuzuka Rui shook his head and said, "It's okay. There are things in the Lord's mansion that were left behind when the bandits attacked the city Lord's mansion last time. With your ability, you should be able to find them easily." As Ming Jing spoke, he took out a box from under the table and handed it to Inuzuka. After taking it, the latter opened it and saw a piece of blood-stained cloth. This time, he felt relieved. It would be fine if it were something else, but this piece of cloth was stained with blood. Then what exists above is the most fundamental aura of a person. With his ability, as long as the bandits last came to Tishi town for no more than a month, he is sure to follow the smell to find the bandits' hiding place. Inuzuka followed the scent and found the bandits' cottage. However, before the departure, Inuzuka Ryo stopped. "What's wrong, Ryo?" Mingjing turned his head to look at Inuzuka Ryo, with some guesses in his mind. "Mingjing, you say, are we really doing the right thing?" Inuzuka Ryo raised his head and faced Uchiha Mingjing with his painted face. "After these 2 days, you should know that Tishi town is very poor. All the people in Tishi town live a very poor life. Some people can't even put together a complete set of clothes. But at the banquet, Yuichi Tobita was able to treat us with such precious delicacies from the mountains and the sea. So, what do you want to say?" Inuzuka Ryo suddenly sat down, stroking Tuin's head while stating, "When I was scouting intelligence in Tishi town before, I learned that 4 months ago, when those sand ninjas attacked and destroyed the mines here, they released the miners who were captured by Yuichi Tobita to mine, and let them attack the Lord's mansion in Tishi town to attract attention and escape. But obviously, they failed. Minato Namikaze, the youngest ninja in the village, tracked their traces and defeated them, but at the same time, after attacking the Lord's mansion, those mountain bandits found that Yuichi Tobita had escaped at some point, so they robbed most of the property there and went up the mountain to become bandits." Inuzuka looked at Uchiha Mirror and asked, "But now, in order to complete the mission, we have to kill these poor people with our own hands, and finally send those things back to the Lord's mansion, so that they can continue to oppress and exploit the residents of Ironstone Town day after day, year after year, and after that, it is foreseeable that he will continue to capture a group of small town residents, force them to become miners, and be endlessly exploited in the dark mines." Quote, "Tell me, is this right?" Aburame Nami said nothing and stood still, looking at the mirror with curious eyes. She also wanted to know what kind of answer Uchiha Mingjing would give when faced with this situation. "We are ninjas." Mingjing silently moved his gaze to the mountain village in front. "Ninjas are never good people. If you want to be a good person, it means that you have not adapted to your identity as a ninja. In the world of ninjas, there is no right or wrong. In other words, the right and wrong of ninjas are different from the mainstream values." Quote, "Why do ninjas have to be different from others? We are all human beings. Living people with feelings." Inuzuka couldn't help but retorted. What no one noticed was that, floating by the woods not far away, a spirit body that could not be detected by conventional means was carefully watching and listening to the conversation. Kato Dan knew that although his disciples were excellent and had successfully become genin, they still had to take the final step to become a true ninja. Although he didn't agree that such a thing was right in his heart, as a Junin of Konoha, he knew exactly what to do as a qualified ninja. Because he also came through this way back then. Suddenly, Kato Dan was curious about the true inner thoughts of his most valued disciple on this issue. Real opinion, Inuzuka Yu and Kato Dan had the same idea and asked the mirror. "Do you still remember what Article 23 of the Ninja Handbook is?" Ming Jing asked rhetorically. No matter what emergencies arise, ninjas must complete their mission as a rule. Inuzuka Ryu answered quite quickly. "Because this is a required course in ninja school." "What about Article 25? Ming Jing asked again. "As a ninja, you cannot show your emotions under any circumstances. Everything is focused on the mission. Ninja, you don't believe in tears. Are these 2 answers your answer?" "No, what I want to tell you is that these 2 principles in the ninja manual are wrong." Having said this, Ming Jing silently pulled out his wakizashi. The snow-white blade exuded a little chill under the moonlight. Perhaps ninjas are originally deformed products. The first Hokage may have realized this, so he changed the ninja system of the Warring States period and established Konoha. But unfortunately, although the first generation did many things that ordinary ninjas could not do, but this is the only thing that even the god of ninja cannot change. But whether you want to just go down this path or find a way to change things, at least you have to get strong enough power, or according to your idea, if you want to do this, you have to be at least a Hokage. Quote. But don't you think that these are still too far away from you? Even becoming a Jonin is quite far away from us now. At least for now, what you should do is to bury all the unnecessary thoughts in your heart, and then do everything everyone thinks it's the right thing to do. Keep doing it. Either you have the ability to change it, or you end up dying in a certain mission like other ninjas. It's up to you. At least, you learn to control your psychology, ninja. The most important thing is one word, tolerance. He talked a lot, maybe he was trying to persuade Inuzuka, or maybe Mingjing was trying to convince himself better. After saying this, Mingjing no longer paid attention to whether Inuzuka was still sentimental. He opened his Sharingan, held the wakizashi in his hand, and strode towards the village. Aburame Nami silently glanced at the Inuzuka and walked forward together. At the same time, she released a large number of bugs lurking around the cottage to prevent anyone from escaping. Inuzuka sighed and looked at the white-haired dog next to him. Tuin, let's follow too. Maybe this is how a ninja's life should be, but Inuzuka never agrees. Maybe, I am a little too naive. As Uchiha Mingjing said, if you want to change all this, you must at least become Hokage first before you are qualified to complete the great deeds that even the first generation could not complete. Although he is very confident in his own talent, and like many of his peers in Konoha, he has made becoming Hokage his ambition, but there are also many people in the village who are as talented as him, or even more talented than him. Such as Uchiha Mirror. Can you really do it yourself? After entering the cottage, Mingjing looked quite surprised. Because this place is actually an empty mountain stronghold, and the people standing on guard towers and the like are actually scarecrows wearing shabby linen clothes. However, it is not that there are no living people here. Relying on Aburame Nami's insect search, they successfully found the only living person here. In the hall of the mountain stronghold, a tall, thin, dark-faced man was dozing off in the main seat in the center. Mingjing silently took out a photo from his ninja bag. This guy was the target of his mission this time, the leader of the bandits, the leader of the miners in the past, Ichiro Okamoto. You are finally here. As if hearing footsteps, Ichiro Okamoto opened his eyes and looked at Mingjing and the other two standing in the center of the hall. Did you know we were coming? Mingjing stopped the two companions beside him and asked Ichiro Okamoto in front of him. Ichiro Okamoto did not answer. And Mingjing had already guessed. If I'm not mistaken, there should be your people in the Lord's mansion, otherwise you wouldn't have sent all the bandits away in advance, but I don't know why you are still here. Okamoto Ichiro's body suddenly stiffened, and then he said, It's not that there are my people in the Lord's mansion, but even among the people in the Lord's mansion, there are also people who are dissatisfied with Tobita Yuichi and even hate him. I understand. Mingjing nodded. It seems that Tobita Yuichi is indeed not a good guy. What about my second question? You knew we were coming, why did you follow us? Or why didn't you try to resist? Okamoto Ichiro lowered his eyes and said, If I tell you, can you agree to one of my requests? It seems that I don't need to agree, but you can tell me what your request is. If you want us to help you collect your body and bury it, it may be difficult, because the task requirements issued by Tobita Yuichi to Konoha are very clear. Kill all the bandits, collect your head and the wealth that was looted before, and return it to Tobita Yuichi. Mingjing said expressionlessly. Okamoto Ichiro sighed, and his dark face was full of helplessness. We have thought about resisting, but the people who released us from the mine before were ninjas from the Sand Village, so I know very well that the strength of you ninjas is not something we can resist at all. You can work together to easily raise the land of an entire mine with an area of dozens of square meters. I am afraid you have more terrible abilities. If we resist, I am afraid that not many people will survive. Raise the land of an entire mine. Uchiha Mingjing's expression did not change, but he felt a little embarrassed in his heart. They don't have this ability. It would be the same if Kato Dan came. If he guessed correctly, this should be the Earth Escape Ninjutsu, the Earthquake Core. The stones in the mine are much harder than the shallow soil on the surface. To lift the land of a mine with an area of dozens of square meters, it should require multiple ninjas to perform together, and the person who presides over the technique should be a senior ninja who has mastered the nature change of Earth Escape Chakra. Ichiro Okamoto continued to speak. The amount of treasure we robbed from Yuichi Tobita was too much. My people only took a small part before leaving. The rest is all in the basement of the third room from east to west in the village. As for my request, I hope that after taking my head, you ninjas can let go of the other people in the village. Don't worry about Yuichi Tobita, because I have asked my guys to change their names and run to various places in the Land of Fire. If you want to catch up, it may be troublesome. Faced with Ichiro Okamoto's request, Ming Jing did not answer directly, but first looked at the two teammates around him and asked for their opinions. Ming Jing, you have more ideas, so you decide. Inuzuka Ryo answered quite straightforwardly. Aburame Nami also said nothing and nodded silently. In that case, I can agree. After the job is done, I will burn down this mountain stronghold with fire, and then tell Yuichi Tobita that you have all died in the sea of fire. Ming Jing nodded to Ichiro Okamoto, and then threw the wakizashi in his hand to Ryo Inuzuka. Ryo, I'll leave the matter here to you first. Nami and I will go to check the hiding places of the treasures. Ryo Inuzuka took the wakizashi and looked at Ichiro Okamoto, who was still sitting in his seat with a complicated expression. Uncle Okamoto, I'm sorry. If one day I have that ability, I will never let this happen to others again. After saying that, Ryo Inuzuka raised the sharp blade in his hand high. Ichiro Okamoto smiled and closed his eyes. Basement, entrance. Insects quickly drilled out of it and flew into the wide sleeves of Nami Aburame. How is it? Are there any traps set inside? Ming Jing asked Nami Aburame. The latter just shook his head lightly. After entering, start counting the amount separately. Okay. Aburame Nami was still very frugal with words. When the two finished counting, Inuzuka Ryo also carried the blood-stained wakizashi and Tuin into the basement full of various treasures. Done. Ming Jing withdrew his gaze from the antiques in his hand and looked at Inuzuka Ryo. Yes. Inuzuka Ryo raised a box in his hand and then returned the wakizashi to Ming Jing. How did you count these treasures? Excluding those antiques and other items that are difficult to calculate, I have a total of 1,723,000 taels here. Ming Jing said, and then looked at Aburame Nami, who was waiting on the side. 1,180,000 taels. Aburame Nami was still very frugal with words. That's 3,003,000 taels, which is 330,000 taels less than what Tobita Yuichi said. So, should we tell Tobita Yuichi that the 330,000 taels have been used up by the bandits? Inuzuka Ryo scratched his head and asked. No, to be precise, a total of 1,130,000 taels have been consumed by the bandits and cannot be recovered, but fortunately the rest of the antique calligraphy and paintings, pearls and agates are still preserved. Ming Jing, you want to? Inuzuka Ryo widened his eyes, and then said a little embarrassedly. If you ask me, this is not a good idea. If you want to report 1,830,000 taels. In this way, the remaining 1,500,000 taels will be just enough for the three of us to share. Ming Jing gave Inuzuka Ryo a thumbs up with a look of, you are the one who knows it. Ryo, this is a great move. Hehe, Ming Jing is also very tough. Tishi Town, Lord's Mansion. Yuichi Tobita stood at the door, took the box from Ryo Inuzuka, opened it, took a look, and threw it to the servant next to him, and then looked at the treasures in the back with a big smile. But after counting, the smile on Yuichi Tobita's face gradually disappeared. This, Mr. Ninja, do you think the amount of money and materials recovered is a little wrong? Nothing wrong. Before Ming Jing could answer, Inuzuka Rui had already stood up. That's all we saw in the village. Are you right, Tuin? Woof, woof. Tuin wagged his tail happily, stuck out his tongue, and swayed gently from side to side as his body swayed. What a pity, but I guess it must have been used by those bandits before, and I can't get it back now. Inuzuka Yu showed a rather regretful expression. Is this really the case? However, there is still one thing that I don't understand about the three ninja masters. The mission requirement is to completely wipe out these bandits, but why is there only the head of Ichiro Okamoto? Where are the others? Quote. Tobita Yuichi looked at Inuzuka with a gloomy face. Ming Jing gently held Inuzuka's shoulders, took a step forward to negotiate with Tobita Yuichi. Your mission requirements only require the submission of this head and the recovered treasure. Although the bandits are required to be exterminated, they do not require corresponding evidence. I am worried that putting the body there will cause a plague, so I put the other mountain bandits there. The bandit's body and the stronghold were burned on fire. Is that so? But it's okay. Even if a person's body is burned, there will still be a lot of things left behind. I am now requesting an additional mission to bring those things as evidence. Lord Fitian. Ming Jing's face also darkened. You said that a corpse would leave traces if it was burned by fire, but I am an Uchiha. Uchiha's fire style is the strongest fire style in the ninja world. He has been burned by our fire style, and he still wants to leave a corpse. Ming Jing had an arrogant look on his face, and he imitated the expressions of certain tribesmen vividly. Really? Are you questioning Uchiha's power? Ming Jing showed his Sharingan and stared at Yuichi Tobita with a cold expression. Tobita Yuichi snorted coldly, and then considering that the Uchiha clan's arrogant character should disdain deception, he had no choice but to expose the matter by default. In the hotel. Did you complete the task in 2 days? You're pretty capable. Kato Dan sat on the seat and put away the book, The Legend of Strong Perseverance, in his hand. Although he and Jiraiya are considered rivals in love, Kato Dan and the other person are also considered good friends. Both of them recognize each other's strength and character. Jiraiya just finished his first novel some time ago. After it was published, he couldn't wait to give a copy to every friend he knew. Kato Dan felt that this book was actually pretty good. Although Jiraiya's writing skills are not bad, the protagonist of the story, Naruto, is also well portrayed by Jiraiya. He is a ninja template created with an extremely ideal attitude, but the old-fashioned storyline in between is due to a series of shortcomings such as an idealized worldview, a lack of sufficient climax plots and the inexplicable process of the protagonist cheating, as well as unrealistic fantasies. Kato Sudan felt that the performance of this book should not be much better. However, Jiraiya's description of many of the interactions between the protagonist and the female characters in the plot that people love to see is perfect, immersive and thrilling. Let's talk about the details of this mission, and then we'll see how to write this mission report. Kato Dan casually leaned on his seat and said. Ming Jing, Inuzuka Rui and Aburame Nami glanced at each other covertly and quickly, and typed a code signal with the hands hidden behind their backs. Follow the original plan. In a short time, Ming Jing and others talked to each other and told Kato the whole process of the previous collusion. That is to say, you first dispersed to collect intelligence, and then you followed the smell of the things you got at the Lord's mansion and found the mountain stronghold where the bandits were. Yeah, Ming Jing and others couldn't help but nod. This paragraph is basically true. Then, you opened the door, killed all the bandits, and cut off the head of the bandit leader with your Unami's insects searched for the place where the bandits hid their treasures, and finally moved all the treasures out. Later, because he was worried that placing a large number of corpses there would cause a plague, Ming Jing used fire escape to burn the entire bandit including the corpses. Quote. Kato Dan repeated it and couldn't help but clicked his tongue. What a wonderful script. Kato Dan looked at them with a teasing expression. Ming Jing's heart suddenly thumped. It's broken. Depending on the situation, it must have been discovered, right? What to do? Help. Inuzuka quietly made a tactical move with his hands behind his back. How do I know what to do now? Der Spiegel decided to just pretend he didn't see it. It's so tall. Kato Suan gave a thumbs up to Inuzuka, exactly the same as what Inuzuka had done before in the basement. Ding Jing, you are too, your methods are tough enough. Kato Dan made the same move to the mirror again. No, you taught us students our skills. Teacher Duan, you are the one who is tall and tough. Ming Jing smiled bitterly and shook his head. Kato Dan didn't know what method he used, but it was as if he was really there and could clearly see every move and word they made. Maybe it's the legendary spiritual transformation technique. Ming Jing secretly guessed. I didn't teach you how to play these things. Kato Dan also shook his head. But whoever sees it has a share, not to mention that as the captain of the team, according to the rules, half of the income from the mission must belong to me, so give me half of the 1.5 million to bribe me, is there no problem? Quote. Seeing the half-smiling expression on Kato Dan's face, Ming Jing took out his wallet decisively and sincerely, divided the 500,000 taels he had obtained into 250,000 and handed it to Kato Dan in an awkward manner, and quickly he gestured to Inuzuka and Aburame Nami with his eyes. The two of them also made the same move. At least, judging from the current performance, Kato will no longer care about them after receiving this money. In fact, Kato stopped collecting money on purpose. He did this to let these students know that he would not care about this. In fact, it is a very normal phenomenon for ninjas to earn some extra money while performing tasks. It is even an unspoken rule that even the Hokage acquiesces to. Kato Dan picked up the teapot, poured 3 cups of tea on the table and signaled to his 3 students. The 3 went up and each received a cup of tea. The amount of ninja missions seems to be very high, but ninjas usually work in teams to perform missions, and the amount they can obtain is actually at a big discount. In addition, the daily training needs and the cost of ninja tools, there is not much left over from the purchase and maintenance costs, so I will make some extra money selectively. Remember, I said selective. Kato Suan raised a finger to Ming Jing and others. Just like Lord Fatian, the issuer of this mission, when you were collecting intelligence, I also collected a lot, and it was much more complete than yours. The evil deeds he committed were far more than you imagined. I even suspected that he might have colluded with the enemy and sold the iron ore and other resources produced in Tishi Town to the enemy country privately. I will explain this to the consultant in the mission report. For such people, as long as they do not violate the rules of ninjas, there is no problem in seeking some benefits for themselves within the limits of the rules, but for others, we still uphold the relationship between ninjas and task issuers, employers and employees, and in this employment relationship, unless the village has additional requirements for notifications such as protecting the daimyo, it is basically dominated by ninjas. In any case, you are all ninjas of Konoha. Whatever you do, you must not violate the village's rules and do things that damage the reputation of the village. Then, Kato Dan explained in detail what was not handled cleanly in this mission, including the last operations, and what areas could be improved. When Ming Jing first met Kato Dan, he could only understand his personality based on the few appearances he made in the original work. But after spending such a long time with him, Ming Jing finally understood what kind of person Kato Dan was. He was indeed a very charming person, not only because he was handsome, otherwise Tsunade would never have fallen in love with him, and she would still miss him many years after his death. In terms of personality, Kato Dan is indeed as shown in the few scenes in the original work. He is a gentle and beautiful man, but he is also gentle in heart and very independent. He is peaceful and cheerful towards everyone and everything, regardless of his personality. Stick to details and traditional rules. This can be seen from the fact that in the original work, he was the only Junin in Konoha who agreed to Tsunade's proposal to train medical ninjas. Admittedly, Ming Jing felt that the factor of picking up girls should account for a large part. In the early morning, the bright sunshine falls on the earth, awakening the whole world to life. 3 days have passed since the last mission in Ironstone Town. This mission can only be regarded as an ordinary sea-level mission. After dividing it up with the captain and teammates, Uchiha Mingjing received only a little more than 10,000 yuan as a reward from the village. Genin-level sea-level missions only have so much money divided into them. But fortunately, including the previous extra money, he made an extra 250,000 taels, which greatly enriched Mingjing's small treasury, which also enabled him to now have more funds to obtain resources to assist his cultivation. Uchiha Tribe, a certain training ground. Uchiha Style Snapfire Flame Sword. Uchiha Style Moon Blossom Slash. Uchiha Style Sword Jump Flame. In the center of the training ground, Uchiha Mingjing was wearing short clothes, constantly waving the wakizashi in his hand, practicing sword skills. For a long time, the rising sun hung high in the sky, and Mingjing's clothes were already soaked with sweat, and then he hurriedly stopped what he was doing. Jian Yuan's move is indeed very difficult. If you want to follow what Grandpa Yu said, you must use the fire escape to perform the swordsmanship, and then use the wind escape to strengthen it to perfectly perform this move. With what I just did, judging from the performance, it can only be regarded as superficial. If you want to truly exert the power of this move, I am afraid you have to practice Shun Feng Dai Dao to a sufficient level, so that you can better learn the skills of integrating Feng Dun into swordsmanship. Quote, After the training, Ming Jing sat under the shade of a tree and summarized it in detail while applying special ointment to his arms to restore the hand muscles that had been slightly damaged due to overtraining. As a ninjutsu, the system of Uchiha-style swordsmanship is quite complete and is suitable for almost all Uchiha practices. The foundation is naturally based on swordsmanship combined with fire escape, but as early as the millennium history of Uchiha, there were other ancestors who incorporated ninjutsu with various attributes into it, which greatly enriched and perfected the Uchiha-style swordsmanship system. Just like the sword Yuan just now, it uses wind and fire escapes at the same time with swordsmanship. It can slash a wide range of moves with wind and fire chakra sword energy. However, it is very difficult to practice. Ming Jing still has it cannot be fully displayed. There are many reasons. One is that Ming Jing's wind escape skills are somewhat insufficient, and his swordsmanship is still a bit behind. But more importantly, perhaps it is because his body has not yet grown up, which will naturally affect this kind of physical skills. Related moves to play. However, Ming Jing is quite satisfied with his current strength. Privately, the three members of Kato's class have also had the experience of competing against each other. After several times, Ming Jing has won more and lost less, which is a slight gap from the same period. Not to mention, Inuzuka Yu and Aburame Nami are the kind of ninjas who are qualified to be trained by the village. Their qualifications are extremely excellent, and they have a high probability of growing to the level of Junin in the future. On the one hand, the blood stain of the Sharingan is indeed very useful in combat. On the other hand, his own talent and hard work are also an important factor in his ability to rise to the current level. He was originally one of the top figures among the ninja school students of his generation, and there was a high probability that he could compete for the top spot in his grade. He was undoubtedly a genius in terms of physical ninja talent. Perhaps there is a certain gap between Uchiha Itachi and Hitaki Kakashi, who can graduate as Chunin at the age of 5 or 6, become Junin at the age of 12 or 13, and even open the Mangekyo Sharingan, but it is definitely a conventional meaning genius. In addition, perhaps because of the fusion of two people's souls after time traveling, Ming Jing now finds that his mental power is quite strong. Photographic memory is not an exaggeration, but has truly become one's own ability. Even with the Sharingan eye turned on, one can remember more subtle details. Moreover, his understanding has been significantly improved compared to his original body and before time travel, which will be of great help to his learning of ninjutsu and illusion. At least, when he showed Uchiha Yu the two basic illusions he had just learned yesterday, he was also surprised that he could learn them in such a short period of time. After finishing the training, he returned home, rested for a while, and took a shower with cold water. Ming Jing changed into clothes suitable for action, put on his ninja bag, put his wakizashi on his back, and rushed towards the Hokage building. Kato Suan believed that although Ming Jing and others performed well in the last mission in Tishi Town, they failed to achieve the assessment results he wanted, so he planned to take on another mission today to train his students. Ding Jing, here. Inuzuka Ryu stood in a corner, waving to the mirror and shouting. Ming Jing walked straight to the side of his teammates. Where's Teacher Duan? Isn't he here yet? I'm here. Kato Suan suddenly appeared behind him at some point. This mission is still to let you see more blood, and this mission is also related to the last mission. Kato Dan took out the mission scroll from his ninja tool bag with a smile. It has been confirmed that the noble Tobita Yuichi of Tishi Town has been continuously smuggling iron ore to enemy countries in the past year to make profits. The Sunagaku ninja attack 4 months ago was suspected to be in order to destroy some evidence. After all, as long as Sunagaku attacks, there will be losses. Tobita Yuichi can also use this to explain the disappeared iron ore. Quote, now, after the decision of the daimyo of Kyoto and the top management of the village, ninjas will be sent to capture Yuichi Tobita. After Kato Dan finished speaking, he threw the ninja scroll to Ming Jing. After being robbed by bandits such as Okamoto Ichiro last time, Tobita Yuichi hired a large number of samurai to protect himself. These people should be able to detect you better than bandits. During the last mission in Tishi Town, while Ming Jing and others were collecting intelligence, Kato Dan also collected intelligence there. When it comes to individual intelligence search capabilities, Kato Suan is undoubtedly the only one in the ninja world. The accuracy and efficiency of intelligence gathering using the spiritual transformation technique are far beyond what genin like Aburame Nami and Inuzuka Inu can compare with. Those things that Inuzuka Rui searched had been searched by Kato Suan long ago, and the matter of Yuichi Tobita's smuggling of iron ore to the enemy country involved in this mission was also found out by Kato Suan. I've known for a long time that Tobita Yuichi is not a good person. Inuzuka shouted, raising his hands high. In that case, let's set off directly now. Kato Dan looked at the three disciples who were getting ready, waved his hand and said. The setting sun is like blood, shining on the peaceful and numb town. The residents of Tishi town have been very scared recently because Mr. Fatian plans to recruit a group of miners to dig in the mines. It is said to be recruiting, but in fact it is to capture young men by force. It is said to be miners, but in fact they are to be slaves. Every few years, a group of those miners will be consumed, and at this time Master Fatian will send out his men. Anyone who has said bad things about Master Fatian is heard, or who has given Fatian if Mr. Tian's offering is too little, then you will have to go to the mines to enjoy the blessings. A small black insect the size of a bee was flying out of the Lord's mansion, and finally landed on an arm wearing a wide-sleeved robe. Nami, how are you? Ming Jing asked Aburame Nami. There are 73 warrior guards in total. Ming Jing nodded, and then looked at Inuzuka. Hi, do you still remember the smell of Tobita Yuichi? Don't worry, I will definitely remember. After a while, you will lead the team and lock the position of Tobita Yuichi. Nami's bugs will be dispersed and surrounded as much as possible to prevent Tobita Yuichi from escaping. I will be the main attacker and breakthrough in the battle. Der Spiegel assigned combat tasks simply and clearly. After the last mission, the three-person team began to be vaguely headed by him. In addition, Ming Jing's strength was indeed the strongest among the three, so this matter naturally followed. Yoshi, let's start the big fight. Let's go, Tuin. Inazukuru yelled and activated his four-legged technique, summoning Tetsumaru to rush forward. Ming Jing's speed was faster and he flashed to the gate of the Lord's mansion. Uchiha-style Snapfire Flame Sword. The red flame climbed up to Wakazashi's blade and instantly cut through the wooden door, splitting it in two. The door, burning with flames at the incision, collapsed. Aburame Nami waved her hands and released a large number of insect swarms scattered around. These bugs are her spies. As long as Tobita Yuichi tries to escape, the other bug swarms will gather to stop him immediately. Not good. Someone is attacking the Lord's mansion. Go and invite the samurai-sama. Go and inform Mr. Tobita. The Lord's mansion suddenly became chaotic. Ming Jing took the lead and rushed in the direction pointed by Inuzuka. Wherever he passed, people fell on their backs. Inuzuka and Aburame Nami followed closely behind. Making such a big noise would naturally attract the attention of others, and soon a group of samurai wearing white samurai uniforms and turbans rushed over with swords on their heads. Who dared to break in here? I wonder if Mr. Kamita is protecting you. Looks like a ninja. Still a ninja of Konoha. Tobita didn't tell us that we were going to deal with Konoha ninjas. What are you afraid of? They're just a bunch of brats, let's go. Ming Jing silently looked at Nami, and the next moment, swarms of insects rushed forward, blocking the sight of these warriors. The next second, Ming Jing and Inuzuka rushed out violently, their claws and blades flying everywhere, blood splattering. There, he's going to run. Inuzuka Ryu suddenly pointed in a certain direction and shouted. I'll leave this to you, I'll deal with him. Ming Jing gave an order, then activated his body and rushed towards the distance. There are many types of teleportation techniques. Any technique that can move the position in a very short time can be called a teleportation technique, such as Namikaze Minato's Flying Thunder God, Hanzo's Water Teleportation, etc. As a powerful ninja family that has been passed down for thousands of years, the Uchiha clan naturally has its own system of teleportation with the use of the Sharingan. According to Uchiha Yu, Ming Jing's great-uncle was the only one in the village who was the second-generation Hokage to have the teleportation technique. He was a master of instant teleportation under him, and under the guidance of the second generation, he also developed a phantom teleportation technique. Of course, that technique is very difficult. Uchiha Yu said that it is basically impossible to learn it before opening the 3 Magatama Sharingan and mastering certain prerequisite ninjutsu. Now Mingjing uses the instant flash that is included in Uchiha-style swordsmanship. After the body is able to bear a higher load, various body blinking techniques such as body blinking can be incorporated into it to push the speed up 2 levels. Quick, run. Protected by a group of samurai, Tobita Yuichi panicked and ran towards the outside of the lord's mansion. However, the next moment, a blurry figure flashed out. The wakizashi in his hand was wrapped in flames. He raised his sword and quickly cleared away the samurai who were guarding Yuichi Tobita. Konoha ninja. Tobita Yuichi recognized Mingjing, and his face suddenly became extremely ugly. He didn't know why the people of Konoha would discover his secret even though he had already done so meticulously on his hands and tail. If he wants to blame someone, he can only blame his bad luck for meeting Kato Dan. If it was any other ninja, it would be fine, but Kato Dan, who possesses the spirit transformation technique, is definitely one of the best intelligence ninjas in the world. Even if he doesn't search deliberately, he can find the information. This Uchiha ninja, let me go, I have a lot of money. With that money, you don't have to fight hard for such a little money like now. Tobita Yuichi shouted loudly. However, what answered him was still the flaming blade and the screams of the samurai. Tick, tick, drops of blood slid down from the wakizashi. All the samurai had been killed by Mingjing, leaving only Tobita Yuichi with an endless look of fear on his face. Can you not kill me? I have money, lots of it, enough for you and your teammates to carry out dozens of missions. Hearing this, Mingjing paused, and the blade of the wakizashi was only a few millimeters away from Tobita Yuichi's neck. Tobita Yuichi could even feel the cold and stinging pain brought by the blade cutting through the air just now. Mingjing suddenly frowned again, because he smelled a bad smell, and when he looked carefully, some yellow liquid had already flowed out of Tobita Yuichi's private parts. Is this guy actually afraid of being like this? However, this is also good news. The corners of Mingjing's mouth curved. It's best to be scared out of your wits, which means your spirit is beginning to break down. An idea suddenly flashed in Mingjing's mind. Magic Narakuju no Jutsu. Looking at Yuichi Tobita, who was already controlled by the illusion in front of him, a proud smile flashed across Mingjing's face. Then tell me where you hid your money. A few minutes later. Lord's mansion. All those samurai had been eradicated. As for the others, Inuzuka and Aburame Nami didn't pursue them much. In recent years, the servants of the Lord's mansion have used Yuichi Tobita's influence to oppress the townspeople of Tishi Town. Even if these people escape, if they are really evil-doing, the angry townspeople will be able to kill them without Mingjing and others taking action. They shred. They don't have Guzao protection like Tobita Yuichi now. When Inuzuka and Aburame Nami finished cleaning up, Mingjing also came back holding Tobita Yuichi's head in one hand and a seal scroll in the other. The requirement in the mission states that it is best to capture Tobita Yuichi alive so that he can interrogate him for information about the ninja subordinates of the enemy country who cooperated with him. However, Mingjing was worried that the village would find out that he had taken away a large amount of Tobita Yuichi's property and be recovered by the village, so he simply picked off his head with a knife. For the information that the village wants, let the members of the Yamazaka clan in the intelligence department be responsible. The information obtained in this way may be more accurate than that obtained through torture. In the world of ninjas, the dead can also speak and cannot lie. As for Mingjing himself, when he finally interrogated the location of the treasure, he only made Tobita Yuichi fall into an illusion. Moreover, Tobita Yuichi himself did not realize this until his death, so the village would naturally not know what he had done. Remember to divide this scroll when you go back. It will still be the same as last time. A thick smile appeared on Mingjing's face. Just from this trip, I was able to earn a profit that was almost equivalent to an A-level mission, but I only performed a simple C-level mission. I have to say that my luck is really good. If I were to use other normal escort caravans to wipe out those poor bandits, I would not be able to make so much extra money. It has to be you, Mingjing. Inuzuka couldn't help but give a thumbs up to the mirror and admired from the bottom of his heart. Okay, if it's almost the same, it's time to go find Mr. Kato and return to the village to deliver the mission. Mingjing waved his hand, threw the things to Inuzuka, yawned and went back to rest. I was a little late studying the newly learned illusion technique last night, and I am not very energetic right now. Time always flows quietly from the fingertips inadvertently, and in the blink of an eye, it is another 3 months. The scorching sun has passed and winter has arrived. Fire country, somewhere in the wilderness in the north. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. 3 shurikens flew quickly through the air in a square shape, heading towards a black-clothed Lang Nin. As a ninja who lives in the land of fire, the other party can naturally recognize the Uchiha clan emblem on Ming Jing's clothes, so he also naturally knows the shuriken of the Uchiha clan that is the best in the ninja world. Skill. Being well prepared, he narrowly avoided Ming Jing's shuriken attack. However, the next moment, a short sword with blazing flames on its surface was slashed down very quickly. The black-clothed Lang Nin could only dodge in a hurry, but unexpectedly, Ming Jing's sharingan caught the flaw and kicked him in the chest. Kick it away. Not good. Seeing that Ming Jing used this time to form a seal, he wanted to use ninjutsu, but he was in midair and couldn't dodge. The wave ninja was so anxious that he had no choice but to throw the ninja sword in his hand towards Ming Jing, trying to interrupt him. Genjutsu Shiranui. The next moment, the wave ninja felt as if his limbs were being burned by fire. Under the pain, he subconsciously let go of the ninja sword in his hand. Relying on the sharingan, Ming Jing can perform some simple illusions through his eyes without forming seals when he is prepared. This level of illusion will naturally have little effect against stronger ninjas, but in a battle of this level, it can quickly help you open up the situation and force the enemy to reveal their flaws. And once a flaw is revealed, there will only be one result. By now, Ming Jing looked at the Lang Nin before him, formed a half-yin seal with his right hand, and then Art Fire Escape Ho Fireball. The huge fireball flew through the air and hit him in the eyes of Lang Nin's despair. The blazing flames immediately burned the Lang Nin's body to charcoal. If it were before, he would definitely feel it was a waste. Because if you just burn the enemy's corpse like this, you will undoubtedly lose a lot of loot. It is impossible to say that the Lang Nin in front of you has a lot of silver. But in a mission a month ago, after killing a Lang ninja, when Inuzuka tried to collect the loot on the corpse, he triggered a trap on the enemy's corpse, and the scene was almost exploded by the detonating talisman. Die. If it hadn't been for Kato Dan's timely rescue, Inuzuka, a genius genin with a bright future and a high probability of becoming a Junin in the future, would have died young and died. After that, several members of Kato's squad completely stopped searching for enemy corpses on the battlefield unless absolute safety could be ensured. No matter how much money there is, you have to live to spend it, not to mention they are not short of money now. The silver they had saved from performing 2 missions in Tishi Town, plus the income from long-term sea-level missions in the past 3 months, was enough for them to use for a long time. Ding Jing, how's it going? The figures of Inuzuka and Nami Aburame were slowly walking in the distance. They were hunting down the companions of the Lang ninja. Judging from the expression on Inuzuka's face now, you can tell that they have successfully completed their mission. Here, there, Ming Jing pointed to a ball of coke on the ground. Well, after this mission, we have completed 20 sea-level missions. I don't know when we will be able to carry out higher-level missions. The Inuzuka murmured as he looked at the sky in the distance with a piece of dogtail grass in his mouth. Our current strength should still be a bit lacking, but sooner or later we will have a chance. Ming Jing replied while picking up the shuriken thrown in the previous battle. During this period, they have performed a total of 20 sea-level tasks. During the intervals, they will also do some D-level tasks when there are no suitable tasks to take on. The current number of D-level tasks completed has also reached 113. However, in recent times, they have been performing C-level missions more and more frequently, and they have almost never performed D-level missions again. Ming Jing speculated that part of the reason for this was that the strength of himself and others continued to improve, which made it more difficult for Kato Dan to take on tasks. On the other hand, I am afraid that the battle situation on the front line is not optimistic. This group of wave ninjas is already the 7th group they have hunted down this month. Because the situation in the country of fire has begun to gradually become chaotic, Ming Jing suspects that this is because the frontline battle situation is unfavorable, which makes others think that Konoha is currently insufficient in strength, so they are thinking of ways to make a profit. Moreover, from time to time, the mirror can hear that any ninja troops from the enemy country have sneaked into the territory of the Kingdom of Fire. The village has also sent people to encircle and suppress them many times. The results were both successful and unsuccessful, leaving many supplies and weapons in the Kingdom of Fire. The production and storage locations have been destroyed, which further encourages these waivers to fish in troubled waters. Ming Jing didn't know whether he and others would go to the battlefield, but he was certain that cutting-edge combat forces like Kato Dan would probably be transferred to the front line soon. The reason why Kato Dan was able to lead them for nearly half a year was mainly because Kato Dan had been seriously injured on the front line in the direction of Wind Country half a year ago, and then returned to Konoha for training. At the same time, Sarutobi Hiruzen he also found him an easy job leading a team of jonin, squeezing as much labor as possible. As early as more than a month ago, Kato Dan's injury had basically recovered, and maybe he would be transferred to the front line tomorrow. Forget it, what's the use of all this? Don't worry about it, all we can do is improve our strength and complete the task seriously. What to do with other things is a matter for the big shots in the village. You are a genin like me, so don't worry about Naruto. Facing the new topic raised by Ming Jing, Inuzuka just laughed and patted Ming Jing on the shoulder. Now, it was his turn to comfort Ming Jing. Kato Dan will indeed be heading to the front line soon. Not only him, but also the 3 genin of Kato's class. Is the current situation in the village really so dangerous that even genin like us, who have only graduated for half a year, have to follow us to the front line? Spiegel was indeed surprised by this. You know, they are different from ordinary genin. At the beginning of their graduation, they had been assigned to be trained under the command of Junin for various reasons. This shows that Konoha truly trains them as the future of the village, not to mention becoming Junin in the future. Shinobi will most likely be the backbone of Konoha's combat power. If there is really a shortage of cannon fodder, other genin will usually be sent there first. Kato Suan sighed helplessly and explained. The village is currently fighting on 3 fronts. Senior Sakumo is on the western front and is able to suppress Sunagakur. The 3rd Raikage on the northern front is also in a stalemate with the 3rd Raikage. The direction of the Rain Country has fallen into the quagmire of war. What's more, the village is still we need to defend Kurigakure on the eastern coastline, and with the years of war, we are really short of manpower. However, you are all important to the future of the village. If it is not necessary, the village will not let you be on the front line of the battlefield, because if it really comes to that point, it means that the village has no way out and can only fight to consume the future of the village, potential risk to win this war. Kato Dan's tone was quite heavy, but he soon changed his tone. Fortunately, when you go to the front line this time, the arrangement for you should be to transport logistical supplies and station and protect strategic materials in the village. You will not be sent to the front line so quickly to fight the enemy. Kato Dan reluctantly cheered up his tone and patted the shoulders of the 3 disciples. I'll go back and say goodbye to my family in the afternoon. We'll gather at the number 1 training ground at 6 o'clock tomorrow morning. Remember to prepare your ninja tools and medicines. Ming Jing and others nodded, each with different thoughts, returned home. Uchiha clan land. Are you even going to the front line? Uchiha Yu was still sitting in a familiar position, wiping the ninja sword in his hand. Well, Teacher Duan said that although we have gone to the front line, we should actually stay on the second line and be responsible for tasks such as logistics and material transportation, and we will not go directly to the battlefield. Uchiha Yu finally put down the ninja sword in his hand and looked at the mirror. When the people on the front line have died, it will be your young people's turn to go up and die. Having said this, Uchiha Yu couldn't help but shake his head. Compared to the first 2 generations of Hokage and Madara, the current 3rd generation is indeed far behind, not only in terms of strength, but also in terms of ability. Even Tobirama will never allow a child like you to be allowed to die before he dies. Step onto the battlefield. It's a pity that the 3rd generation seems to be the only one who has the ability to support Konoha, even if he can only barely support it. From the era of Uchiha Tajima and Senju Buddha to the present, his rich experience has made Uchiha Ha see things very clearly. The current Konoha seems to be extremely powerful and unparalleled in the limelight, but in his opinion, it is like a burning fire cooking oil. If there is no new firewood, the fire will always fall. In order to maintain the seemingly grand fire, Sarutobi Hiruzen threw the newly grown shoots into the fire. However, it is true that only Sarutobi Hiruzen can hold up the position of Hokage in Konoha now, and maybe in the future, Hatake Tsukumo can too. But Uchiha Yu felt that although this Konoha White Fang had strength, military exploits and prestige, he lacked background and was too upright. I'm afraid his final fate would not be good. At least, he couldn't beat the third generation. Just like Madara back then, he was forced by Tobirama to not be able to take the position of Hokage by political means, and finally left Konoha. Sooner or later, the third generation, as a disciple of the second generation, would use the same means to persecute Hatake Tsukumo. Maybe, Uchiha Yu cast his eyes on Ming Jing. If he could open the same eyes as Madara and Izuna, and with the support of the Uchiha clan, he would also have a chance to sit in that position. I just don't know if he can live to wait until that day. It depends on whether I can live to wait until that day, and whether Ming Jing can live to wait until that day. Ming Jing, Grandpa Yu, I'm here. Remember to go to the battlefield, don't lose the reputation of Uchiha, and, come back alive, you are the future of the family. I know. Konoha 35th year, winter. From the number 1 training ground to the street at the entrance of the village. Uchiha Yu stood in the crowd, silently watching the team in front leave. Anyone who has been to the country of rain will say that it is a country of weeping. Ming Jing deeply agrees with this. Even though he is not yet within the kingdom of rain, but is staying at the border between the kingdom of fire and the kingdom of rain, it still rains continuously for days and the air is humid. Especially now that it is still the 12th lunar month of winter, the weather is even more humid and cold. Just like Kato Dan said, the village did not directly arrange for them to go to the battlefield, but to be in a second-line position. This place was originally an important stronghold of Konoha's border defense in peacetime. It stocked a certain amount of military supplies. Once the war started, it could effectively support the front line and serve as a logistics center and reserve troop base. Kato Dan has already led a group of elites to the front line to take orders from Mito Kadoin, the commander-in-chief of the battlefield here. As for the current camp, it happens that an uncle of the Inuzuka clan, a Junin named Inuzuka Pilato, is in charge of the highest command. Thanks to this relationship, the tasks assigned to Ming Jing and others were pretty good, relatively safe, and easy. For example, right now, they are on duty, responsible for guarding an area southwest of the camp. Nami, what's going on? Ming Jing turned his head and looked at Aburame Nami, who had just picked up a group of bugs. The hot breath he exhaled as he spoke created a stream of white mist in front of his mouth. The one who answered Ming Jing was Aburame Nami, who shook her head silently. Is that so? In a few minutes, when the tiger comes back, it will be almost time to change the shift. I hope the next mission can be passed so safely. Ming Jing sighed leisurely. Regardless of the fact that he is almost unparalleled among the genin of the same period, according to Kato Dan, his current strength is already better than that of many Chunin, and he is probably only short of enough military exploits to become a true Chunin. Or it was just a Chunin exam. The strength of Inuzuka Yu and Aburame Nami is also better than that of most genin, and it is not necessarily impossible to pass some Chunin exams. However, with this little strength in such a large-scale war, it would not make any waves at all, and it was just better than the cannon fodder of those genin. To put it nicely, the Chunin is the village's important backbone fighting force in the war. To put it lightly, they are just high-level cannon fodder that can be used as consumables. Only when you reach the Jonin level, or at least a special Jonin level of strength, can you be qualified to get rid of the fate of being cannon fodder in this war, and have enough self-protection capabilities, provided that you do not encounter the 5 shadows, Hanzo or tailed beasts this level of combat power. Ding Jing, I'm coming. Not far away, the loud voice of Inuzuka was heard, and behind him was the iron ball that had grown a lot in the past 6 months. Dogs are generally considered adults after 1 year old, but these ninja dogs of the Inuzuka family are obviously not included in this category. Basically, the ability to have children is not reached until the age of 3, that is, adulthood in the biological sense. However, this does not mean that before the age of 3, these ninja dogs have little fighting ability. For example, the current Tetsumaru, although he has just passed 2 years old, has begun to approach the shape of a young dog, and can cooperate with the Inuzuka to perform quite a few of the Inuzuka clan ninjutsu. Therefore, Inuzuka's strength has actually increased greatly in the past 6 months. Ding Jing, Nami, according to what Uncle Paula said, we have to participate in the next material escort mission after this mission, because if we have been performing these easy tasks, there will definitely be people gossiping and causing some people to have dissatisfaction. Inazukuru touched Tetsumaru's head and said to the mirror. Is that so? I can understand Senior Paladin's thoughts. After all, the people who can stay here are basically either young ninjas with potential who are valued by the village, or they have certain backgrounds behind them. If Senior Paladin does something, it's too obvious. Those in the front are fine, but those in the back are hard to deal with. Mirror is quite open to this. Because they have all these two characteristics. The three of them are almost the most outstanding among this generation of genin, and they all have the support of their respective ninja clans. Although Aburame and Inuzuka are not top-notch clans, they are not the ordinary little ninja clan who can compete with them. Is considered to be above average among the ninja clan in Konoha, not to mention that the Uchiha behind the mirror is still the most powerful ninja clan in the world. The truth is this, however, the risk of escorting supplies is indeed much higher. At least when performing the task, we must be well prepared and careful enough. I don't want to see the difference between us. Who is missing? Inuzuka Yu forced a smile and said. The task of escorting supplies is usually carried out in batches from the rear strongholds, and various supplies are escorted to the front line from time to time. This is definitely a place where the enemy is focusing their attention. Once suspicious information is obtained, elite troops will be dispatched. If you come to intercept the road, even if there is none, from time to time, small groups of enemy troops will sneak into the rear and try to attack and destroy it. Although the level of danger is not as high as the frontline battlefield, it cannot be underestimated. Every month, 1 or 2 incidents of attacks on logistics escort troops occur. When Ming Jing and others first arrived at this camp, they happened to see a group of logistics escort teams that were attacked by the elite troops of Yugakure. It was said that several of them died, and some of the remaining ones were missing arms and legs. I probably won't be able to be a ninja in the rest of my life. It's okay. On average, we only encounter attacks every 5 times we go out on such missions. The last attack was just last week. We shouldn't be so unlucky. Even if we do encounter one, there's nothing we can do about it. I believe that our team is strong enough to survive this level of danger. Ming Jing patted Inuzuka's shoulder and comforted him. Cars rattled and horses rustled. Ming Jing, carrying his wakashi on his back, observed the surroundings and walked in the middle of the team. Beside him, there were many equally cautious ninjas. The dozen or so carriages in the middle carried a small amount of seal scrolls and a large amount of other supplies. The seal scroll is actually not small in size. It is as thick as an adult's waist and about 1 meter in length. Although it can seal materials, the actual storage capacity is not ridiculously large. Unlike in Shenxia novels, a storage bag can hold several cubic meters. In the original work, both Senju Hashirama and Tenten used this thing to seal a lot of shurikens and other ninja tools, and the same was true behind the mirror. And this thing is equally difficult to make. Not only are the materials precious, but they must also be made by ninjas who master both the art of channeling and the art of sealing. The principle is somewhat similar to that of the Flying Thunder God, which can channel ninja tools and other items when the scroll is opened. Unlike Ming Jing, who stayed in the middle of the team as obedient escorts, Inuzuka and Aburame Nami, due to their excellent reconnaissance abilities, were placed on the outside of the team to sense possible attacks at any time. At the same time, due to their ability to sense the ninja's precious, they are protected by at least 2 chunin. Everyone try to cheer up. The valley terrain ahead is very easy to set up an ambush. The group of guys last month were raided here by Yugakure. Try to be careful. Once the sensing ninja discovers any suspicious situation, he will immediately report. A special Junin who was about 20 years old, with half-long hair and a scar on the corner of his eye, stood at the front of the team and said to the people behind him. He is one of the 3 special Junin in the rear stronghold camp, second only to Inuzuka. His name is Baiyun Tokishin. He has rich combat experience. I heard from the news from Inuzuka that this man's strength is in Konoha. Among the special Junin, he is extremely outstanding. He is no worse than many Junin, but he has no background. Therefore, he has been stuck in the special Junin position for several years, and he needs to go through more qualifications and military exploits before he can be promoted. Ming Jing gathered his energy and followed the team quickly through the valley with cautious eyes. The mountains on both sides of the Taiwan Strait are steep and densely forested, and they are located at a commanding height. It is indeed a very suitable place to set up an ambush. It's not that I haven't thought about taking other roads, but the terrain on other roads is more dangerous than here, so I can only choose a relatively less dangerous place from these places with dangerous terrain. Haku and Jonin, there's a situation. In the distance, the voice of Inuzuka Yu suddenly came from the team of sentient ninjas. After Baiyun Shixin heard this, he hurried towards the location of Inuzuka. What happened? What did you find out? Baiyun Tokushin looked at Inuzuka Roshi with a serious face. It's not me, it's Nami. Anujin pointed at Aburame Nami, who was quietly closing her eyes and controlling flying insects. Seeing Nami's hood and sunglasses outfit, Sharon Tokushin immediately recognized her identity as an Aburame clan member. He suppressed his anxious thoughts and waited quietly beside her, while giving instructions in an orderly manner. The team paused. A few minutes later, insects flew from a distance and fell into the wide sleeves of Aburame Nami. Genin Nami, what happened? Shirayan Tokushin asked Aburame Nami with a solemn expression. Outside the entrance of the valley, there are about 100 rain ninjas ambushing them. Judging from their costumes, there should be Junin-level masters among them. Aburame Nami pushed up her sunglasses and said, her voice still no longer as calm as before. A Junin-level opponent. Baiyun Tokushin frowned and looked at a Chunin next to him. Their team totaled more than 80 people. The strongest one was naturally his special Junin, and there were more than 30 Chunin. As for the rest, they were all Genin, including many novice Genin who had just graduated in the past 2 years. He doesn't have enough fighting experience. If a battle really breaks out, there may be serious damage and it may not be possible to save this batch of supplies. With countless thoughts in his mind, Baiyunshi suddenly made a plan with confidence. All Konoha ninjas obeyed the order, and the sensing ninjas and Genin moved to the center. All the Chunin who were good at defensive ninjutsu went to the outside of the two wings for protection. The other Chunin stood with me, lined up the formation, and then set up positions in place. Traps, use ninjutsu to build fortifications, carry supplies, pretend to retreat along the same route, and be ready to launch a counterattack at any time. After the order was given, all the Konoha ninjas present moved quickly, and Ming Jing also took advantage of this time to squeeze in next to Inuzugaru and Aburame Nami. In this case, standing with the teammates with whom you have the most tacit understanding can best reduce tension and better display your own strength. The 80-odd people in Konoha's logistics escort team changed their formations in an orderly manner, moving slowly towards the route they came from behind, while leaving one trap after another on the ground. At the mouth of the valley, a thin, middle-aged man wearing a gas mask was making mudra with his hands and closing his eyes to perceive the surrounding situation. Lord Takeda, Konoha's ninja troops began to turn back, as if they were trying to return the way they came. The middle-aged man suddenly opened his eyes and shouted to an Omegakure Junin next to him. After hearing this, Takeda Hiro frowned. You sure? The middle-aged man closed his eyes again and used perception ninjutsu to confirm the situation in the valley. That's true. They have completely reorganized their formation and retreated. There was a trace of ferocity in Takeda Hiroshi's eyes, and he ordered decisively. In this case, we don't have to hesitate. The entire army will attack and intercept Konoha's logistics team. Yes, in an instant, hundreds of Omegakure ninjas wearing gas masks came out in unison. It's coming. Everyone, be careful. An unknown sensory ninja suddenly shouted, drawing the attention of all Konoha ninjas to Taniguchi's position. There, a large number of Omegakure ninjas were rushing towards here with weapons in hand. Everyone, form your formation and prepare to meet the enemy. Get ready for the water escape ninja and earth escape ninja. Baiyun Shixin stood on a carriage and ordered to all the ninjas. In the distance, Takeda Hiro watched the Konoha ninjas stand firm in place. As an experienced Junin, he immediately guessed that there might be a trap ahead, and immediately called a few rain ninjas who were good at large-scale water escape. Water release. Waterfall technique. Water release Shui Luanbo. Water release wave. In just a few breaths, a powerful torrent was generated in the direction of the valley mouth, rushing towards Konoha's position, and at the same time destroying the traps previously set by Konoha ninjas on the ground. Earth release ninja, prepare. Seeing this scene, Baiyun Shixin was not surprised, but urgently ordered the Earth Escape ninja to take countermeasures. Earth Escape Earth Flow Wall. 2 Escape 2 Lu returns. Earth Escape Lian Tile Technique. Rows of earth walls of different shapes and textures rose up in front of the Konoha ninja's position, blocking the raging flood in front of them, as well as subsequent attacks such as flying shurikens. Ninjas are very fast. Just after they blocked these attacks, a famous Omegaker stepped on the water on the ground and rushed over, screaming. Jung. The sound of gold and iron colliding sounded. Shirayan Tokushin was already holding a ninja sword and was fighting with the opposite Egaker Jonin. With just one look, Ming Jing knew that this kind of Junin-level confrontation was not something he could get involved in. But, Ming Jing silently opened his scarlet Sharingan and looked at Yugaker rushing forward. Chapter 31. Ninja Art. Yatong Ya. The figures of Inuzuka and Tetsumaru turned into a white whirlwind and rushed away from the 2 rain ninjas in front of them. Ming Jing followed closely behind, and quickly passed through the wakizashi in his hand, cutting off 2 heads. There were other Omegaker nearby who tried to sneak attack, but were attacked by Nami's bugs in the face, and were finally killed by Ming Jing's sword. To be honest, although the 3 of them are only genin, they have good talents, come from a wealthy clan, and have a lot of ninjutsu. Each of them has the guidance of a Junin in the clan, as well as the guidance of a top powerhouse like Kato-dan, but in terms of the ability to fight head-on is already quite good, not to mention the cooperation between the 3 of them is quite tacit. And Omegaker village is just a small ninja village. Apart from a Hanzo who can compete with the 5 shadows, it has no advantages at all in other aspects. Many genin may have difficulty even graduating in Konoha. Although the ninja class may be the same, there is a big gap with the ninjas of the same level among the 5 major ninja villages, let alone the 3 of them. It is actually reasonable for this situation to occur. However, his outstanding performance will naturally attract the attention of the enemy. Soon, 2 Chunin came. The art of ninja is like rain and dew thousands of times. An oil umbrella flew from midair at some point, choosing to scatter countless thousands of books and stab them at everyone. Ming Jing was about to rely on the powerful dynamic vision of the Sharingan to use his wakizashi to knock away all the Senbons, but the next moment, the voice of Aburame Nami rang in his ears again. Secret technique insect wall. Black bugs flew quickly in the air, condensing into 2 shields to block those Chinbin. Call. Inuzuka took a long breath. The sneak attack just now was extremely subtle. Ming Jing was okay, but if he didn't have Nami Aburame to help him, no matter how fast he dodged, he would still be hit by several attacks. Wait, it seems, something's not right. Inuzuka suddenly looked startled and his nose twitched. He felt that what he saw in front of him was not quite what he sensed through his sense of smell. He hurriedly formed seals with his hands and tried to unlock the illusion. However, the person who responded more promptly than him was Uchiha Ming Jing. Who gave you the courage to use genjutsu in front of an Uchiha with Sharingan? Ming Jing held a short sword and slashed hard at the tall Omegaker ninja in front of him. Uchiha-style Shunfang wears a sword. However, this Omegaker Chunin was obviously not comparable to those rookie genin just now. Water release water whip. A white water whip formed by water flow was held in the hand of the Omegaker Chunin and blocked in front of the blade. The excellent toughness brought by water escape made it impossible for Ming Jing to cut it off. However, the next moment, Ming Jing pulled out the knife again and slashed at the neck of the Omegaker Chunin again. Yu Ren frowned and took a step back slightly, causing Ming Jing's attack to miss the front of his neck. There is a flaw. This was his first reaction to the mirror Sharingan. Immediately taking advantage of the opponent's steps to retreat, he waved his wakizashi in different ways and continued to use Uchiha-style swordsmanship, attacking the opponent continuously and retreating for a while. However, as an adult ninja, the opponent's physical fitness is much better than that of Ming Jing. In this kind of close combat, it can also bring him a great advantage. As time goes by, he gradually stabilizes. He stood up and started to wave the water whip in his hand to fight back. Ming Jing missed the opponent's attack with a knife, and quickly turned his head to dodge several thousand sticks spit out from the opponent's mouth that tried to destroy his eyes. He decisively gave up the little advantage he still had at this time and retreated backwards. Hey, kid, are you running out of energy? What can Uchiha do? He will die in the hands of me in the end. A cruel smile appeared on the face of Yugakure Chunin, but it was covered by the gas mask and did not look friendly, but the ferocity in his tone could not be hidden no matter what. Ah, this is just to create distance so that I can better perform the next ninjutsu. Ming Jing shook his head, raised his hand and quickly made a few seals. The genjutsu he is going to cast next is not easy. It is the most difficult and the strongest genjutsu he has mastered so far. Even though he has a Sharingan, it is only a single Magatama, and his eye power is not strong enough yet. To the extent that it can be done instantly with eyes, it still has to be assisted by seals. Illusion bubble. The next moment, Yu Yin hit Ming Jing with a whip, but at this time Ming Jing suddenly turned into a group of crows and flew away. Illusion. Solution. Yugakure's movement to unlock the genjutsu only lasted for a moment before he had to give up. Because there were countless shurikens in front of him, shooting out from the crowd of crows and flying towards him. He didn't dare to bet whether this was part of the illusion or whether there were real shurikens mixed in. But just after the Omegakure Chunin blocked these shurikens with water escape, the crows in the sky suddenly descended towards him. In midair, Ming Jing's figure leapt high and hid among a crowd of crows. The Magatama in his Sharingan eyes kept rotating rapidly, catching the opponent's flaws. Uchiha-style sword jump flame. A huge and blazing flaming sword energy slashed out from the short sword in Ming Jing's hand and flew towards the Omegakure Chunin. The sword leaping in flames is a relatively powerful move in the Uchiha style of swordsmanship. With Ming Jing's current level of swordsmanship, he still needs to spend some time preparing, which is why he uses illusion to cover the powerful chakra fluctuations. Even if he is still in the illusion, the Rain Ninja can detect Ming Jing's attack. But even if he detects it, he will definitely not be able to block this sword leaping in flames with his strength. The water whip was quickly cut by the sword energy and then evaporated by the flames. After that, the Rain Ninja, who was no longer able to stop it, could only watch the sword energy diagonally cut his body in half. Ming Jing took a long breath, looked at the body in front of him whose edge had been carbonized, and turned to rush to the battlefield where Inuzuka Ryo and Aburame Nami were. 10 minutes later. Secret technique. Bug ball. The Yugakure Chunin who used the Raindrop's Thousand Bones to launch a sneak attack was first injured by Inuzuka Ryo's Yutongya, and then one of his arms was cut off by Ming Jing's sword. His combat power was greatly reduced, and finally his whole body was crawling with the bugs of Aburame Nami, and he died from the bugs. After dealing with this Yugakure Chunin, Ming Jing turned around silently and looked at the entire battlefield. Shirogane Tokinobu was still fighting with the Yugakure Jonin, and the fight was fierce. The rest of the Konoha ninjas, relying on their prior preparations and comprehensive qualities that were superior to those of the Yugakure ninjas, successfully stabilized the situation and gradually gained the advantage on the field. After Uchiha Ming Jing, Inuzuka Rui and Aburame Nami eliminated the two Omegakure Chunin, he joined the battle again. It can be said that the strength of their team is quite outstanding on this battlefield. Uchiha Ming Jing's current strength is considered to be at a relatively good level even among Chunin. Inuzuka Yu and Aburame Nami cannot be underestimated. Together, one or two Chunin are no match at all. After joining forces, another Omegakure Chunin was killed again. As for after that, no heads will be recorded. It's not that they can't fight anymore, but the performance of the three has attracted the attention of other Omegakure Chunin, and 3 Chunin were specially assigned to block the 3 of them, so that Ming Jing and others can't do anything again in the future. However, Ming Jing is not in a hurry, because the current situation on the field is Konoha's advantage. Although a small part of the supplies were destroyed, they had successfully suppressed an isolated Yugakure, making it impossible to take action on these supplies. Takeda Hiro naturally noticed this scene. His strength is on the same level as Baiyun Tokushin, but slightly stronger. Therefore, he can devote a little attention to the current situation on the field. Naturally, he knows that Yugakure's goal can no longer be achieved, and it will be useless to continue fighting, and may even increase the losses. Immediately after a fight with Takeda Hiroshi, he quickly distanced himself. Omegakure Ninja, retreat. After saying that, he did not arrange the next candidate, so he moved back. He knew that in order to protect the supplies, everyone in Konoha would not pursue them too far. It didn't matter whether they stayed behind or not. At this time, Ming Jing and the other three could only take the opportunity to kill a genin during the pursuit, and were ordered by Sharon Tokushin to stop the pursuit. Their first priority is to protect these supplies and deliver them to the front line. Everyone, rest where you are for 20 minutes, replenish chakra, then check the supplies, and then set off immediately. Our positions and the supplies have been exposed, and we must move as soon as possible. Baiyun Shixin still had a calm face and issued orders simply and decisively. Ming Jing took advantage of this time and asked Aburame Nami to repeatedly test some of the rain ninja corpses on the ground with parasitic bugs. After truly confirming that they were safe, he searched for a few more corpses. It's a pity that these Yuyin are very poor and cannot let Ming Jing and the others gain much. It seemed that it was because of hitting a snag, and it seemed that it was because of Baiyun Tokinobu's decisive relocation. Konoha's logistics transport troops did not encounter any enemy attacks on the next journey, and successfully moved most of the remaining supplies. Delivered to the front line. Konoha's camp in the Kingdom of Rain is completely within the Kingdom of Rain. The air here is also more humid, the sky seems to be always covered with dark clouds, and no matter what time, there are always raindrops falling from the sky. In order to facilitate drainage, Konoha's camp in the Land of Rain was built on a flat land with relatively high terrain. Next to the flat land was a slope. A small river flowed under the slope. Even if the rain was too heavy, there would be a place for flood discharge. Not to mention, this condescending terrain is also more suitable for the defense of the camp. Phew, I'm exhausted. I can finally take a good rest. As soon as he entered the tent, Inuzuka couldn't help but sit down on the mat, while Tetsumuru stayed at the door of the tent, shaking his body constantly, trying to shake the moisture from his hair. I just checked with the Jonin who is handling the logistics supplies. Mr. Dan is currently out on a mission and is unlikely to come back within a few days. I'm afraid we won't be able to see him again. After Ming Jing finished speaking, he threw some damp firewood on the ground, intending to use the fire escape to dry it and then start a fire. First, he could warm himself up, and secondly, he could boil some water and cook something to eat. We are only staying here for one night, so we probably won't be able to see Mr. Duan and the others. Aburame Nami pushed up her sunglasses and said. The coat she wore seemed to be very waterproof. Both Ming Jing and Inuzuka were turned into drowned rats, but she seemed not to be affected in any way. While speaking, Ming Jing also lit fire on the ground. Forget it, let's cook something hot to eat first. I've been taking Bingliong pills for the past 2 days and I feel like my tongue is going to be broken. Ming Jing couldn't help but complain. Although Bingliong pills can replenish chakra and provide a strong feeling of satiety, the taste is really hard to describe. But it seems like we don't have anything we can cook and eat. Inuzuka felt that he had found a blind spot, but Ming Jing magically pulled out a box of canned beef and some scattered wild vegetable roots. Well, I brought it with me before setting off, so I'll just make do with it. The ninja school taught them how to identify these wild vegetables. I picked some relatively good ones on the way back, and then I took the canned food and added some water. The taste is it won't be bad. Great. Inuzuka suddenly beamed with joy, and Tetsumuru ran over from the camp door with a grin on his face, wagging his tail and jumping to look at the can of beef in Ming Jing's hand. When the firewood was almost dry, Ming Jing opened his mouth and used fire release to spit out a wisp of flame, ignited it, and placed the opened beef can on the stone shelf that had been built in advance. Hey, I miscalculated. I don't have a pot. It's not very convenient to just cook it like this. I can only eat meat while boiling these wild vegetables and taking them out to eat. Ming Jing patted his head, then took a few wooden sticks and cut them into wooden skewers with his wakizashi. Then he threw the wild vegetables into the can and took them out to eat when they were cooked. There were a few white foams floating on the boiling broth, and then the meat and vegetables were picked up from it and put into the mouth. It was a pleasure to eat a hot bite on such a rainy day. Especially this canned food. In order to ensure that the storage time can be as long as possible, there is a lot of salt in it, and there is also thick butter. Even without seasoning, the taste is not bad. Although the quantity is not much, it is basically not enough for 3 people and 1 dog, but everyone still ate it to their heart's content. The first meal on the first day of arriving at the front camp of the Rain Country was so plain and peaceful. However, at this moment, in the high-level command room of the Konoha front camp, it was not very peaceful. Master Yan, the supplies that have just been delivered have been counted. A ninja informed Mizutoman Yan, who was sitting in the main seat. I know, let's distribute these supplies as soon as possible along with the previous inventory. Mizutoman Yan rubbed his eyebrows with a headache and replied. After sending this ninja away, there were only 4 people left in the entire Konoha command room. Mitoman N, Orochimaru, Jiraiya, and Tsunade. These 4 are the 4 people with the highest status and strength in this camp at this time. Originally, in addition to them, there should also be Kato-dan and an elite Junin named Mumu Gadao. The latter was quite powerful and was also the absolute confidant of Hiruzen Sarutobi, but at this time the 2 men had already taken another Junin to perform a secret mission. Let's talk about what to do now. The troops sent to attack Yugakur's rear are now probably close to being wiped out. Mito Kadoyan sighed heavily and asked the 3 people in front of him. Senior Yan, you shouldn't provoke Hanzo at this time. Judging from the current situation, the troops who went to attack should have been noticed and met Hanzo himself. Tsunade shook her head, indicating that there was nothing she could do. As the strongest medical master in medical ninjutsu in the entire ninja world, she knew very well how terrifying Hanzo's poison was. This highly corrosive poison is so corrosive that even she has not yet developed an antidote that can work quickly. She can only use the technique of extracting minor symptoms to expel the toxin from the body with her superb chakra control ability. But today, when medical ninjas have not yet been trained on a large scale, there are very few people who can use this technique. Even if Tsunade has urgently trained a group of medical ninjas after arriving in the Land of Rain, there are only a few people can learn it. Hanzo's poison is not only highly corrosive, but also has an absurdly large range, capable of covering a large area of the battlefield. Under that kind of large-scale invasion, as long as Hanzo's chakra is not consumed, then quantity has no meaning in front of him. I am afraid that few of the teams that went to raid would come back alive. Hey, if we could have planned as Orochimaru said before, giving priority to attacking Sunagakur, showing strength to a Megakure village, and trying to win over them to form an alliance, I am afraid that the people of Sunagakur village should be worried now. Chio. Jiraiya shook his head helplessly, and then turned his gaze to his companions. The most talented and smartest companion in his heart. But Orochimaru still sat quietly in his position, his eyes gloomy, not knowing what he was thinking. This matter is indeed my fault. I will apologize to the village and take responsibility. However, I also feel that Sunagakur and us are the same 5 major countries and are stronger. It would be safer to deal with Yugakur first. While Mito Kaden was chattering, he also turned his attention to Orochimaru. Now is not the time to talk about this. Orochimaru finally spoke. What I'm worried about now is the intelligence capabilities of Yuyin village. Orochimaru, what did you think of? Everyone's eyes immediately focused on this pale-skinned young man. Why is Yuyin village able to detect traces of our troops? If they have this ability, what will they know and do now? Orochimaru. You mean, there is a mole here? Mito Kadoyan frowned and quickly listed a series of questionable candidates in his mind. That's not what's important. Orochimaru shook his head. Since they know this, will they know the whereabouts of Senior Kung Dao and Dan? Tsunade's expression suddenly changed. Orochimaru, what you mean is, Hanzo may go to kill them. They knew Hanzo's strength only too well. Their own strength is now on par with Kato-dan's, and Kato-dan's spiritual transformation technique must also be taken into consideration. Excluding the art of spiritual transformation, although Kato-dan's strength has reached the standard of an elite Junin, once he faces Hanzo head-on, he will definitely not be his opponent, and it may be difficult for him to even come back alive. No, Hanzo won't, because if I were Hanzo, I would take advantage of the fact that our elite troops are damaged and the 2 powerful forces of Kato-dan and Kimu Kato are not available to directly attack Konoha's camp and establish victory in one fell swoop. Only in this way can the results be maximized. Orochimaru's words surprised everyone, because if such a thing really happened, then Konoha's war on the Rain Country battlefield would be enough to declare a failure. However, according to Hanzo's character and courage, it is indeed very likely that he will make such a choice. I'll go arrange the garrison of the camp first. Mito Kabuto suddenly stood up from his position. I'm afraid, it's too late. Tsunade turned her head, and at this moment, a ninja suddenly broke in outside the command room. Master Yan, and all of you. A sentient ninja observed that a few kilometers away, the main army of Yuyan village was charging towards the camp. Mito Kadoyan's movements suddenly froze in place, hesitating for a few seconds, and then opened his mouth and said, "You take the troops from the village and retreat first. I will personally lead those who are willing to stay to cut off your rear." Elder Yan's momentum is commendable, but unfortunately, with your strength, I'm afraid you won't be able to stop Hanzo for long. Orochimaru shook his head without hesitation. The three of us are the ones who should stay. Elder Yan, please arrange for most of the ninjas to retreat as soon as possible, and then select the elites to join Dan and Gongdao Senpai. Since Hanzo is attacking our camp, you should also attack Hanzo's Yugaker. No matter how bad the result is, we will at least be tied with Hanzo. At this time, he was still the most perfect successor to Hokage in Hiruzen Sarutobi's heart. Before his friend Kato Dan died, he had not yet embarked on another path because of his understanding of the fragility of life. But the same thing is that under the calm and rational heart, there is still a crazy energy. But, Mitoman Yan wanted to say something else. Orochimaru is right. Tsunade and Jiraiya stood up together. I am the only one who can use the fine vein extraction technique to detoxify while fighting. Only when I am here can I have the possibility of fighting Hanzo for a long time. Tsunade's tone was full of heroism. I will stay with you. No, Elder Yan, you should do what Orochimaru said, because when I am fighting, I can only help 2 extra people detoxify at the same time. Tsunade shook her head and rejected Mitoman Yan. And if the 3 of us join forces, it is not certain who will win or lose against Hanzo. Tsunade's tone was full of confidence. She knew how strong Hanzo was, but she and others were not bad either. Perhaps this battle could become a stepping stone for the 3 of them to break through their strength. Mizutoman En looked at the 3 young men in front of him deeply, thinking of the meeting held on the ground before the death of the 2nd generation. When I was young, I was far worse than these 3 young people. Hiruzen, they are worthy of being your disciples. Remember, come back alive, you are the future of the village. After saying the last sentence, Mizutoman En turned around and left to select the remaining ninjas willing to stay behind. In the original work, when Kato Dan died, he was injured while performing a mission with Kaim Kodo and Tsunade. Judging from the fact that he was qualified to scold Tsunade, who was panicked because of Kato Dan's serious injury on the battlefield, Kaim Kodo should be a high-ranking ninja, and he can perform missions with Tsunade and Kato Dan. His strength should be at the level of an elite ninja. What happened? Why did you suddenly ask us to retreat? Uchiha Mingjing had a bit of confusion on his face, and he fled behind the camp with his 2 teammates. My bugs told me that there are many ninjas coming here, and among them, there should be a very strong creature, but the air there is poisonous, and the bugs can't get too close, so they can't check it. Get more information. Aburame Nami stretched out her hand to take back a bug, turned to the mirror beside her and said. Ming Jing nodded heavily. Hey, you 3 are Duan's disciples, right? Suddenly, a female voice sounded. Directly in front of them, there were 3 people standing, and the one speaking was the blonde woman standing in the middle. Tsunade heard about Kato Suan's 3 disciples, and even showed Tsunade a group photo of Kato's class, so she could recognize them. Are you, Tsunade Senpai, Uchiha brat, do you recognize me? Teacher Dan often mentions you in front of us, as well as Orochimaru Senpai and Jiraiya Senpai. Run quickly, Hanzo is coming. Ming Jing turned his head. The end of the field of vision was shrouded in a thick layer of purple smoke. This is the extremely poisonous nature of Sancho Fish Hanzo. As if something suddenly occurred to him, Ming Jing hurriedly took out 3 gas masks from the ninja bag on his waist. This was taken from several Yugaker when they were cleaning the battlefield during the previous attack in the canyon. Tsunade's eyes couldn't help but light up. Tsunade Senpai, I don't know if these can help you. Hanzo's poison can not only be spread through breathing, but can also invade the skin. But with this, at least the poisoning speed will be much slower. When we fight Hanzo later, the interval between each poison extraction can be longer. It's good for us to fight. Tsunade hurriedly took the gas mask and handed it to Jiraiya and Orochimaru beside her. Be careful not to be broken by Hanzo during the battle. Orochimaru nodded silently. Jiraiya gave himself a thumbs up. Don't worry, Tsunade. Hanzo's poison was getting closer and closer, almost approaching the edge of the camp. Tsunade-senpai, Orochimaru-senpai and Jiraiya-senpai, let's go first. Seeing this, Ming-Jing hurriedly pulled the two companions around him, confessed his crime to Tsunade, and then used the teleportation technique together to leave towards the distance. Well, then it's up to us. Tsunade's gaze was cast on the purple poisonous mist in the distance. 3 hours later, in the Kingdom of Rain, somewhere in a dense forest, Der Spiegel feels fortunate to have two companions with excellent reconnaissance capabilities in his team. Their presence really helped my team avoid too many dangers. Nami, Ryu, how is the situation now? Not very good. Inuzuka shook his head. Today's rain is much heavier than the past few days. Both Tetsumaru and I's sense of smell has been greatly affected. Water can effectively block odors. Where's Nami? Ming-Jing moved his gaze to another companion. The rain is too heavy, and the flight of insects is also affected, and the detection range is very small. Aburame Nami said as she looked at an insect that was slapped to the ground by the rain in front of her. In 3 hours, we avoided most of the chasing Yunin. According to the distance estimate, we are still about 100 kilometers away from the village's garrison point on the border. Now the most dangerous moment has been avoided by us. As long as we walk this 100 kilometers, we can join Inuzuka Paladin and the others at the stronghold we were stationed before, and then wait and see the battle situation on Tsunade-senpai's side. Der Spiegel speculates whether this could be the battle of the three ninjas in the original plot. In the original plot, Tsunade, Orochimaru, and Jiraiya faced off against Hanzo on the battlefield of the Land of Rain. Although the three of them lost to Hanzo in this battle, it was also because of this that Hanzo believed that there were young people like Tsunade in the Fire Country who were powerful, and believed that Konoha would win in the end, so he let him go. He married 3 people and gave them the name of Sannin, and then formed an alliance with Konoha, changing the direction of the war. Then what will happen if Tsunade-senpai and the others lose? Inuzuka asked worriedly. Ming-Jing couldn't help but paused. He couldn't say that there was a high probability that Hanzo would win this battle, but in the end he let Tsunade and the others go and chose to ally with Konoha, right? Even Inuzuka would not believe it. The thoughts in my mind changed and I began to deduce the normal situation. If Tsunade-senpai and the others are defeated, then there is no doubt that the village's troops will temporarily withdraw from the battlefield of Rain Country. However, Mr. Dan has gone out to perform a mission. Mitoman advisor has probably retreated with some ninjas. They should be able to summon them by then. The remaining ninjas are defending based on several strongholds on the border. Hanzo's goal is to protect the mainland of Rain Country. After driving away Konoha, the target will definitely turn to Sunagakur and Iwagakure. After that, it depends on whether the village decides to continue send more reinforcements, or just let us retreat. Ming-Jing used his fingers to make famous analysis, and then continued. But no matter what we have to do now is to pass through this dense forest and rush to the border stronghold as quickly as possible before the following Omegakure ninjas catch up. After saying that, Ming-Jing stood up, patted the dirt on his pants, and called Inuzuka Ryo and Aburame Nami to continue moving forward. The sooner you leave, the safer you will be. Something is wrong. After walking for more than half an hour, when the rain subsided, Inuzuka Ryo suddenly sniffed. There seems to be someone around. After Ming-Jing and Aburame Nami reacted, they quickly stood beside Inuzuka Ryo and formed a defensive formation. At the same time, not far away, a small rain-hidden ninja wearing a gas mask silently called out to the 2 teammates around him. They are an elite rain-hidden ninja team responsible for chasing Konoha ninjas. The whole team consists of 4 Chunins. Although they successfully killed a Konoha team in the previous chase, they also lost a man. Fortunately, the most important perception ninja in the team was not in trouble. The short Yuyin was the perception ninja of this team. Now, he sensed the traces of Ming-Jing and others based on the vibration of the surrounding ground. Inuzuka Ryo and Tuin were still following the smell to sense the enemy's position. Aburame Nami relied on the secret technique cocoon to quickly hatch a large number of insects to prepare for the subsequent battle. This kind of rainy day is not conducive to her insects to play a role. She can only rely on consuming a large amount of chakra in a short period of time, temporarily cultivating more insects to make up for this shortcoming, and taking the soldier pills to restore chakra as much as possible. It's a few genin brats. When the little Yuyan saw the figures of Mingjing and the other two, he was secretly delighted. Previously, they encountered a 4-man team led by a Chunin. In addition to the Chunin, the 3 genin were not the kind of genin who had just graduated and whose bodies were not fully developed. They had good combat experience. This lineup caused their 4-man Chunin team to lose a member. However, since these brats in front of them are just a group of genin who look more than 10 years old, this time, it should be stable. Where are those brats? Are you looking for me? The figure of Uchiha Mingjing appeared behind the Yuyan at some point. Magic, this place is not the art. After confusing the sight of the Yuyan with illusion, the next moment, the figure of Inuzuka Ryo suddenly became like a beast, fiercely stretching out his claws to tear his neck. Yuyan could only dodge in a hurry, but this time, it just happened to suit the intention of Aburame Nami. Densely packed bugs quietly emerged from the ground and quickly crawled all over the body of the rain-hidden ninja. Secret technique, Bug Jade. This method can greatly alleviate the problem of the flying ability of Aburame Nami's bugs being hindered when it rains heavily. What? These little ghosts. The remaining 2 rain-hidden ninjas stood back to back nervously, holding kunai and looking at the mirror that surrounded them. In just a moment, the 3 little ghosts used illusions and sneak attacks to kill the small perception ninja hanging at the end of the team. The current situation is 3-2, and from the performance just now, this team of genin is not a soft persimmon, and the average level is estimated to be higher than that of the 3 chunins. Kick the iron plate. You Konoha, do you all call this genin? No matter how you complain in your heart, for them now, the most important thing is to think of a way first, how to fight next. The girl who played with the bugs looked weak, but their companion was killed by Nami's parasitic bugs just now. Obviously, she was not easy to mess with. Looking at Uchiha Mingjing, the Uchiha clan emblem on her clothes and a pair of Sharingan were enough to let them know Mingjing's origin. Uchiha ninjas have never been simple. Then, water style, water wave. One of the Raingaker released a water style on the ground, rushing away the people around, while the other Raingaker took this opportunity to draw out the ninja sword and rushed towards Inuzuka Ryo. These 2 Raingaker are treating themselves as soft persimmons and want to use me as a breakthrough. Inuzuka Ryo suddenly realized this and was furious. He called Tuin and stopped the rain ninja with a Utanya. On the other side, Aburame Nami controlled a large group of bugs and rushed towards the rain ninja who had just performed the water style. Water style water array wall. A water curtain sprayed out from the mouth of the rain ninja to block the insects. In the weather of the rain country, the power of water style can be greatly increased, which also made Mingjing reduce the use of fire style in recent times and use more Uchiha style swordsmanship and wind style. Uchiha style instant wind sword. Mingjing's figure rushed out like a sharp arrow, splitting the water curtain with a knife and going straight for the opponent's head. A dull metal collision sound rang out, and the wakizashi in Mingjing's hand collided heavily with the kunai in the hand of the rain ninja, and then another illusion was used to delay, and then the body was sideways, allowing Aburame Nami to take the opportunity to jump high and kick the opponent in the chest, kicking him away. As for the other rain-hidden ninja, he was also fighting with 2 Inuzuka Ryos. One of the 2 Inuzuka Ryos was transformed by Tuin using his orc clone. He was basically able to exert the same strength as Inuzuka Ryo himself, but it was difficult for him to perform some ninjutsu that required high chakra precision control. However, he could use most of the secret techniques of the Inuzuka clan that Inuzuka Ryo mastered. These Konoha genin, how come they feel stronger than our 2 chunins? One of the rain ninjas couldn't help cursing after Mingjing cut a deep wound with a knife. Hey, you two, you were really embarrassed. You were bullied like this by 3 genin brats. A new voice suddenly emerged from the dense forest in the distance. Another 4 rain-hidden ninjas came here through the jungle. Perhaps they were attracted by the noise of the battle here. Mingjing's face couldn't help but become a little ugly. The 4 people who came didn't seem to be strong. They should be a team of a chunin with 3 genin, but they were enough to change the situation on the field. The reason why Mingjing and his team had to sneak attack and eliminate the small rain ninja first was because with their current combat power, they could have an absolute advantage in a head-on battle with 2 chunins, but with 3 chunins, the outcome was uncertain. Not to mention, there were 3 genin at this time, who could interfere with them on the field. First, try to protect yourself, try to create an opportunity to escape, and try to open a breakthrough from several genin and the injured chunin. Uchiha Mingjing's hand hidden behind his back silently made several tactical moves. After confirming that Inuzuka Ryo and Aburame Nami saw it, he quickly threw a large number of shurikens in front of him, trying to block the sight of the enemy in front of him. A group of enemies quickly scattered, avoiding Mingjing's shuriken. At the same time, 2 uninjured Yugakure chunin also took advantage of this time to outflank from both wings, trying to surround everyone. However, how could Aburame Nami and Inuzuka Ryo give them this opportunity? Ya Tong Ya, secret technique Parasi Bug. Mingjing also made seals with both hands at this time, spitting out a group of balsam-like flames in front of him, and then performed a wind escape. Fire escape Bingxian fire technique. Wind escape big breakthrough. With the blessing of wind escape, the flames scattered and flew towards the rain-hidden people. Although the effect of using fire escape in such a watery environment is average, it is still amazingly powerful with the blessing of wind escape. Water style. Water array wall. Water style. Water wave. Water style. Wave. The injured rain ninja and several other genin saw that Mingjing's combined ninjutsu of fire style and wind style was so powerful, and they quickly released water style to block it. Even several genin released the simplest, not very powerful water style ninjutsu. The water and fire mixed together, making a hissing sound and raising a large amount of white mist. Mingjing first dodged with a knife to help Inuzuka Ryo force his opponent back, and then used illusion to help Aburame Nami get rid of the opponent's entanglement, and then decisively took advantage of the opponent's vision being blocked by the white mist and used instant movement to leave. 2 hours later, Konoha and Rain Country are close to the border. Go this way. The Inuzuka twitched its nose and led Uchiha Mingjing and Aburame Nami to run in a certain direction. Stop for a moment. Mingjing pointed to several wounds on Aburame Nami's body. This was just after the battle, when one of the Omegakure ninjas stabbed Aburame Nami several wounds on her body with a kunai. Although Aburame Nami is very powerful in the family's secret arts, her own physical skills can only be considered average. Stop the bleeding first, otherwise it will affect your future combat status, and it can also prevent the enemy from tracking you through the blood traces that may be left. Uchiha Mingjing took out a roll of gauze from the ninja bag on his waist and handed it to Aburame Nami. Now it is less than 40 kilometers away from the stronghold on the border of the Land of Fire. Those Omegakure ninjas may give up tracking because they are worried about encountering reinforcements from Konoha ninjas, but Mingjing does not dare to gamble. If you lose the bet, everyone has to play it out. Okay, but once the enemy's scent approaches, we must leave immediately. Before he finished speaking, Inuzuka's expression suddenly changed. What happened? The enemy is chasing us. Mingjing looked shocked and was about to pick up Aburame Nami and run in another direction. No, a smile appeared on Inuzuka's face. It's ours, Nami. This is the smell of that stinky guy from Iron Gate. And my clan sister Inuzuka Claw. Aburame Nami couldn't help but stop the movement of her hands, and then sped up. Hyuga Tetsuman was a ninja at the same time as them, and his grades in the ninja school were not lower than theirs. As a member of the Hyuga clan, his subsequent development should not be too bad. If he can join their team, then Inuzuka Rui believes that they are fully capable of killing all the Omegakure who are chasing after him. Iron Gate, Hinata Iron Gate, and Claws. I remember Ida is also in this team. Mingjing raised his eyebrows. Immediately, after Aburame Nami bandaged the injury, Inuzuka Rui followed the scent and led Mingjing and others towards the location of the Iron Gate team. At the same time, 1 kilometer away from Mingjing and others, Inuzuka Claws was also looking for the scent and rushed towards the direction of Mingjing and others. Long time no see, Mirror. Haha, Mirror, we meet again. A long way away, Jingta and Inuzukazuma greeted Mingjing. Mingjing smiled at them in a friendly manner. However, the white-eyed young man with long hair simply stopped Jingta and others' attempts to reminisce about the past. If I guess correctly, Nami's injury was caused by the Omegakure team that has been tracking you. If you want to reminisce about the past, you should wait until this trouble is solved first. Now, let's talk about the opponents you know well. Information. Hinata Temen's face was cold and he spoke to the people in front of him in a calm tone. His Byakugan can see almost all movement within a kilometer. Teamin-kun is right. We should get rid of this Omegakure team as soon as possible first. At first, we fought against an Omegakure team of 3 Chunin, but we killed the sentient ninja among them. A team of 1 Chunin and 3 genin came from behind. We were not absolutely sure that we could defeat the opponent without attrition, and we thought that this place was not far from the village's stronghold, so we retreated here directly. Quote. Ming Jing explained as briefly as possible what happened to the 3 members of his team. 3 Chunin, are you already this strong? Kazumatsu Inita looked surprised, and Inuzuka Claw also expressed surprise. Hinata Iron Gate took a deep look at the 3 members of the mirror team. He boasted that his talent and strength were pretty good among the genin of his generation, but at this time, his ability could only rely on his Byakugan and the soft fist technique that was good at attacking and defending to stop a Chunin in a frontal close combat. And he still can't be too powerful a Chunin. It can only be said that he is still capable of fighting against most Chunin. Although the other 2 teammates are of acceptable strength, they can only be regarded as relatively good genin. Together, they may be able to defeat an average genin. The Chunin. Hyuga Tetsuman also believes that Inuzuka and Aburame Nami, who were at the same level as him at the ninja school, should be about the same level as him at this time. In the face of 3 Chunin, can you still kill one of them, and finally escape unscathed when the enemy's reinforcements arrive? It seems that your strength is not bad. Hinata Iron Gate looked at the mirror. Uchiha. If this Uchiha is from the same wealthy family as Hinata, it is reasonable for such a genius to appear. Thinking of this, Hinata Temin couldn't help but laugh in his heart. Hinata, rich family. With the existence of caged birds, the Hyuga clan will never be able to cultivate an eagle that can soar into the sky. Hinata is just a pseudo-rich family that is gradually declining and heading towards decay. There were a lot of thoughts in his mind, but Hinata Temin still maintained his calm face. Now, there are 6 of us in the Omegakure ninjas. What do you want to do? Should we directly return to the stronghold as a group, or fight back? If an Uchiha could swallow his anger, he wouldn't be an Uchiha. Uchiha Mingjing gave the only answer simply. In fact, even if Hyuga Tetsuman and his team hadn't come, Mingjing and his team would have barely had the strength to fight, but the result was hard to predict. There was a high probability that someone would be sacrificed, which Mingjing didn't want, so he retreated with Inuzuka Ryo and Aburame Nami. However, since those rain-hidden ninjas couldn't figure it out, now was a good opportunity to teach them a lesson. Hey, I say, why don't we retreat first? Those little brats are really strong. Even if we can take them down, I'm afraid we will lose manpower. The rain-hidden ninja who had been stabbed by Mingjing before couldn't help but whisper to the other 2 Chunins around him. The reason why he whispered was because he was afraid of losing face in front of these genin. What are you afraid of? They are just 3 little brats. Although they are not weak, except for the Uchiha brat, the other 2 are weaker than you and me, not to mention that the female ninja from the Aburame clan is also injured. When we find them, we can let the genin hold her back first, and then hurry up to get rid of the remaining 2. With the advantage of numbers, we will still win. It's impossible that their number will suddenly double. A middle-aged Chunin holding a special umbrella interrupted him. He is the captain of the new rain-hidden team, and he is also an old Chunin with outstanding strength among Chunins. This is why he can lead his subordinates to suppress the other 2 rain-hidden Chunins. Yes, this place is still dozens of miles away from Konoha's base. Even if they send people out to support, they will definitely not send them so far away. At most, they will be around the base for more than 10 miles. The last tall and sturdy Yuyan Chunin couldn't help but agree with the middle-aged Chunin's words. What's more, these ninjas from big countries don't know the pain of our small country at all. These 3 little ghosts must be the new generation of Konoha's talented ninjas. If they can be eradicated, they can also give back a little for what these Konoha ninjas have done in the Rain Country. The tall Yuyan couldn't help but think of Mingjing's dazzling shuriken skills, endless ninjutsu and powerful swordsmanship during the previous battle, and his heart was full of jealousy. Why can these ninjas from big countries have a stable growth environment and so many powerful ninjutsu to learn, while he has to survive in the chaotic Rain Country since he was a child, collecting ninjutsu here and there to learn, and finally he is just a Chunin at this age? Why wasn't he born in a big country and become a ninja from a big country? With his ability, he can do this in the Rain country, so will he become stronger in those big countries, or even become a Jonin? Everyone, come and see. Not far away, a genin pointed to a drop of blood on a leaf that was washed away by rain and was already very light. The middle-aged Rain ninja came over, stretched out his finger to dip a little, and licked it lightly with the tip of his tongue. It's still fresh, they are not far away. Speed up, let's keep chasing. A few minutes later, still somewhere in the dense forest. In the bushes, Hyuga Timon's white eyes were surrounded by blue veins, checking everything that happened around him. Here it comes, Hyuga Timon reminded carefully. Soon, a group of Yuyin appeared near the forest. In another bush nearby, Uchiha Mingjing opened his Sharingan and watched the scene in front of him. In front of him, several rows of shurikens were neatly placed on a piece of cloth torn from his body. These were most of the shurikens carried by the 6 people in the team, and he was responsible for opening the battle at the beginning. Seeing that the enemy had entered his attack range, Uchiha Mingjing reached out and grabbed a corner of the cloth and raised it, and the shurikens also flew into the air. Under the powerful dynamic vision of the Sharingan, the trajectory of these shurikens in the air was extremely clear in Mingjing's eyes. Uchiha-style shuriken manipulation. In an instant, Mingjing's hands danced in the air like a butterfly flying through flowers, throwing these shurikens at an extremely fast speed. Under his exquisite control of strength, even if there is a certain interval between the launches, the speed of these shurikens can be different, and they can attack the enemy at the same time. In the sight of those Rain ninjas, a long dragon formed by shurikens suddenly appeared in front of them, and finally turned into a large piece of raindrops and fell towards them. Water escape water array wall. ×2. The tall Rain ninja and the injured Rain ninja immediately joined forces and used water escape to block these shurikens. As for the middle-aged Rain ninja, he protected his 3 students while preventing the enemy from taking this opportunity to attack. As the weakest link in their team, the 3 genin still need to avoid being attacked by the enemy at the beginning of the battle. However, the 3 genin were not the first surprise attack targets planned by Mingjing and others. Ya Tongya, Soft Fist Method Bagua 32 palms. Inuzuka Ryo and Hyuga Timon rushed out at the first time and rushed towards the 2 Rain ninjas who had just performed ninjutsu. With their strong melee skills, it is hard to say whether they can defeat these 2 chunins, but they can definitely stop them for a long time. As for Uchiha Mingjing, he raised his sword to fight against the middle-aged Yuyin chunin who used an umbrella as a weapon. Let's go help too. The 3 genin saw this scene and couldn't help but want to step forward to help, but the next moment, countless dense black flying insects blocked their vision. It's okay. The female ninja who used insects is not strong in physical skills and is injured. As long as we can get close to him, we still have a chance of winning. One of the genin shouted to his companions and rushed towards Aburame Nami. Hey, you guys, don't underestimate my uncle Jingtai. The figures of Fengji Jingtai and Inuzuka Zu rushed out from the jungle on both sides and attacked Aburame Nami from 3 sides. Aren't there only 3 of them? Didn't they say that Konoha's people wouldn't come to such a far place to help? The 3 genin were immediately scared, but they had to grit their teeth and go forward to fight. Why is the physical skills of this white-eyed brat so troublesome? The tall and burly Rain ninja rubbed the place on his shoulder that was hit by Hyuga Timon just now, and couldn't help spitting on the ground and cursing. Hyuga Timon put his left hand behind his back and stretched his right hand forward, staring coldly at the Rain ninja in front of him in a soft fist posture. As for the Rain ninja who was slashed by Mingjing before, he was now fully defending against the attack of Inuzuka Ryo. He was already injured, so he decided to play it safe first. Later, as long as the middle-aged Rain ninja dealt with the Uchiha brat, everything would be fine. The middle-aged Rain ninja who was given hope by other Rain hidden ninjas was very strong. His strength was greater than any Chunin-level opponent that Mingjing had encountered before. It can be said that since Mingjing debuted, except for facing Kato Dan, a Jonin, when he was fighting for the bell, this middle-aged Rain ninja was the strongest one among all the opponents he had encountered. Uchiha-style Shan Kumo Kiri. Uchiha-style Shun Huo Yan Dao. Uchiha-style Shun Feng Dai Dao. Uchiha Mingjing's continuous attacks were all resolved by the middle-aged Rain ninja in front of him. Surprisingly, this middle-aged Rain ninja was also a master of swordsmanship. The umbrella sword in his hand was used in a very strange way, which had the flavor of a strange weapon. For a while, Ming Jing was beaten into a mess. If it weren't for the strong insight of the Sharingan, which could timely discover the blade on the edge of the umbrella sword and the 1,000 books fired after it was opened, otherwise, he would probably be lying on the ground now. But the middle-aged Rain Ninja also took this opportunity to counterattack, suppressing Uchiha Ming Jing. Turning his head to avoid a few flying Sanban, Ming Jing used his knife to block the attack of the middle-aged Rain Ninja. Just as he was about to counterattack, the umbrella suddenly opened again, and arc-shaped blades popped out from the edge and chose to cut him. This guy has completely suppressed me. Now I can only rely on the power of the Sharingan to barely hold on. Uchiha Ming Jing gritted his teeth and fought hard while thinking about a way out. In terms of swordsmanship, the opponent is a rare expert, and the use of the weapon in his hand is weird. In addition, his age is at the peak of a ninja, and his physical fitness is much stronger than Ming Jing, so it is difficult to achieve results in close combat. We must think about a way to open the situation as soon as possible. Fire escape, wind escape, swordsmanship, illusion. Ming Jing's brain is working quickly. Now we are still in the territory of the rain country. The rain is continuous, the ground is muddy, and there is a lot of stagnant water. It can have a certain blessing for water escape. If I use the fire escape that I am best at, I may be suppressed. In terms of wind escape, my proficiency is not high now. It is just enough to be used in actual combat. It is usually used as a part of the combined ninjutsu to strengthen fire escape, but it can be considered in appropriate circumstances. For swordsmanship, it is also difficult for me to defeat the opponent in close combat. Then the most likely thing is illusion. However, before Ming Jing could make the next move, the situation on the field suddenly changed again. Ah, ah, ah! A scream rang out, and a genin of Yuyin was wrapped and eaten by dense black insects. One of the other two genins seemed to be affected by the scream, and was caught by Fengji Jingtai, who beheaded him with a knife, leaving only the last one. Facing the attack of Nami and the other three, he could not hold on for more than a dozen moves, and was finally cut in the throat by Inuzuka Zu with sharp nails. Zu, what should we do next? Should we help Ming Jing? Fengji Jingtai looked at the three people fighting in the field and asked Inuzuka Zu beside him. And Inuzuka Zu looked at Aburame Nami. Aburame Nami still stood there motionless, as if she tacitly agreed to let Inuzuka Zu make the arrangement. The Chunin who fought with Ming Jing is very strong. Even Ming Jing was suppressed. My suggestion is that I and Ida should replace Timin. With Timin's strength, he is enough to intervene, and with his Byakugan, he can also guard against the opponent's strange methods. Then, with Nami's remote support with insects, he should be able to help us defeat this strongest opponent. As long as he is defeated, there will be no suspense in this battle. Inuzuka Tsumugi swept his eyes across the situation on the field and made a judgment. Aburame Nami silently controlled the insects to support Ming Jing, while Kazesai Ida followed Inuzuka Tsumugi to stop the tall rain ninja. Timin, go help Ming Jing defeat the rain ninja with an umbrella first. Kazesai Ida shouted, and then he surrounded the tall rain ninja with Inuzuka Tsumugi and Kuromaru, holding the ninja sword. No need, we go together. Hinata Timin said, glanced at the tall rain ninja in front of him, and turned calmly. Hey, little brat, are you treating me like I don't exist? The tall rain ninja was furious and just wanted to continue fighting, but found that his body was stiff and couldn't move. Uncle, this is the secret acupuncture of the Hyuga family. Kazai Ino said to the tall rain ninja with a smile, and then decisively raised his knife and killed him. At the same time, the middle-aged rain ninja, who noticed the change in the situation on the field, couldn't help but feel a little anxious. He tried to break through and escape several times, but was stopped by Ming Jing. Zhang, the sound of metal collision sounded. Ming Jing raised the wakizashi upside down, and tried to parry the attack of the middle-aged rain ninja, and then decisively turned over, and rolled over to avoid the subsequent combo of the rain ninja. The middle-aged rain ninja just wanted to take this opportunity to escape, but was blocked by a large number of black flying insects. The middle-aged rain ninja looked ugly, and decisively pressed the mechanism on the umbrella handle and threw it upwards. Ninjutsu, thousands of palms like raindrops. Densely packed thousands of palms flew out of the umbrella, killing large groups of insects, but just when the middle-aged rain ninja tried to escape, countless palms with whistling wind appeared in front of him. Soft Fist 8 Diagram 64 palms. After narrowly avoiding the attack of Hyuga Iron Gate, the middle-aged Rain Ninja realized that he had no room to escape. Because on the other side, the Rain Ninja who was originally slashed by Mingjing was also besieged by Fengji Jingtai and 2 Inuzuka family ninjas and died on the spot. After completely losing the support of his teammates, the middle-aged Rain Ninja knew that what awaited him in the end was most likely to be besieged to death by a group of Konoha ninjas. The middle-aged Rain Ninja hammered the ground fiercely. His umbrella ninja tool was thrown out in the previous battle, and now it has been moved aside by the cunning Tuin and Haimaru. Without the umbrella, even if he still had a good water escape technique, it would be difficult for him to escape from the encirclement of this group of people. After this battle, he was very clear about Uchiha Mingjing's strength. He believed that his strength was among the top among all the Chunin in the Hidden Rain village, and he had been taught swordsmanship by Hanzo. However, Uchiha Mingjing in front of him could fight him like this in a head-on battle. He looked embarrassed but was actually unscathed. His strength was considered elite among all Chunin, and the little brat from the Hyuga family could solve a Chunin alone, so his strength must be not simple. In addition, the others were all elite genin whose strength was close to Chunin, so he would definitely die. However, he had already prepared to die for the Hidden Rain village, but before that, it would be worth it if he could get a few more Konoha geniuses with him. Thinking of this, the middle-aged Rain Ninja opened his mouth fiercely, ripped open his clothes, and revealed a detonating tag tied to it. However, how could this action be hidden from the 2 Ijutsu ninjas of Konoha present? Uchiha Mingjing and Hyuga Timin, who had been prepared, quickly grabbed one of their teammates in one hand and quickly retreated. Seeing this, the middle-aged Rain Ninja hurried forward to chase, but was blocked by the insects of Aburame Nami for a while, so he decisively detonated. Boom! Secret technique insect wall. Earth escape return of earth and land. A solid earth wall rose up, and on the surface of the earth wall were barriers composed of insects, blocking the power of the detonating tag. In the aftermath of the explosion, everyone was blown away by the shock wave at the same time. The insect wall and earth wall were shattered immediately after the explosion, but fortunately, they also blocked most of the power of the explosion. Mingjing groaned, used the wakizashi as a crutch, stood up from the muddy ground that was bombed, and looked around. Almost everyone was injured. Inuzuka Ryo protected Tuin from the explosion by holding him under his body. His back was covered with blood from the flying debris. Aburame Nami even injured her calf and could hardly stand. Even Mingjing's clothes were torn and her arms, which had just been hugging her head to protect it, were covered with blood. But fortunately, everyone survived. Let's go quickly. The explosion just now was too loud. I don't know if it will attract new enemies. Hinata Timin said to Mingjing. His face was covered with blood. Behind him was Kazumatsuri Inoda, who was supporting Inuzuka Tail. Okay. Mingjing nodded and was about to carry Aburame Nami, who had lost her ability to move, on his back. Let me do it. Your arm is injured. Hinata Timin glanced at Mingjing's arm lightly, then carried Aburame Nami on his back without saying anything, turned around and rushed towards the base without looking back. This guy is quite cold-faced but warm-hearted. Mingjing laughed and called Inuzuka Ryo to follow him. On the subsequent journey, Mingjing and others did not encounter other rain ninjas. In the rainy weather, the smell will be blocked by moisture, and insects cannot fly, but the Byakugan can still be used normally. Under the guidance of Hyuga Timin, everyone successfully returned to the base set up by Konoha on the border of the Land of Fire. Quick, send the wounded in. Prepare the medicine. Near the base, Inuzuka Talon saw 2 young people with extraordinary potential in the clan returning with their injured teammates, and hurriedly called on the others to send Mingjing and others to the base for treatment. Half an hour later, in the base, with a bandage on his arm, Mingjing and Hyuga Timin introduced to Inuzuka Talon word by word everything that happened after they arrived at the frontline camp. The experience of Hyuga Tetsuman and his team was similar to that of Mingjing and others. They were escorting supplies to the front line from another stronghold deployed by the village at the border. However, on the way of retreat, they originally planned to return to the stronghold where they were assigned. However, halfway through, Hyuga Tetsuman used his Byakugan to detect a large number of organized rain ninjas, so he decided to change the route and switch to this stronghold, which was relatively close. The situation on the front line has become like this. Inuzuka sighed and looked at the gloomy sky outside the window. I don't know how Tokushin and the others are doing. He and Shirakubo Tokushin are very good friends. At the same time, Shirakubo Tokushin, as a special jonin who specializes in swordsmanship and speed, has been incorporated into the elite team temporarily formed by Mitoman N. He joined Kato-dan and Myung Goto and successfully attacked the rear of the Hidden Rain village and destroyed all their logistical supplies. After destroying the logistical supplies of the Hidden Rain village, Kato-dan insisted on setting off to help Tsunade and others who were fighting with Hanzo. What he didn't know was that the fight between Tsunade and others and Hanzo had ended. After such a long war, Konoha can still cultivate young masters like you three. Hanzo stood on the head of the huge Sancho Inobushi with his hands folded across his chest, looking down at Tsunade, Orochimaru and Jiraiya who were supporting each other below. It seems that even if I kill you now, the final winner of this war will probably still be Konoha. This demigod standing at the top of the ninja world silently looked at the three people below. He didn't know that Konoha had been forced to the point where the students of the ninja school had to come 2 years in advance to replenish their strength. On the contrary, he felt that Konoha's foundation was really terrible. Even at this point, Konoha could still continuously produce new strong people, who were ridiculously strong. So, I decided to let you go, but as a price, you will bear the name of Konoha Sannin that I gave you from now on. Hanzo took a deep look at the Konoha Sannin in front of him and left in an instant. He already wanted to form an alliance with the powerful Konoha to drive the people of other big countries out of the Rain country. This country has suffered too much destruction, and the war must be ended as soon as possible, otherwise this country will have no future. 1 day later. This base has received a large number of Konoha ninjas who retreated to the vicinity due to the defeat of the frontline battle. The original number of people in this base was about 150, including 1 jonin, 2 special jonin, a certain number of chunins, and a considerable number of genins like Mingjing who were arranged to the second line for training. Although the effect of this training was obviously a bit too much. After receiving these Konoha ninjas who retreated from the front line and were defeated here, the number of people in the entire camp was close to 300. When the night of this day came, when Shiroko Shinobu arrived at the base, he was accompanied by 2 Konoha jonins, Kato-dan, and Tsunade who had just won the title of Sannin. The news they brought swept away the previous decadence of the group of wounded and defeated soldiers in the camp, and their morale was high. The 3 disciples of the third Hokage, Tsunade, Orochimaru and Jiraiya, successfully stopped Hanzo of the Salamander in the war, winning the opportunity for most of the Konoha ninjas to retreat. While preserving the vitality of the village to a great extent, they also used their powerful strength to intimidate Hanzo, causing Hanzo to start to form an alliance with Konoha. Well, this is what was said during the external publicity. Mingjing knew that Tsunade and the others were actually defeated by Hanzo. Because this is what Tsunade told the 3 genin of Kato's class. See Gui. Inuzuka Ryo touched the smooth skin on his body in amazement. Aburame Nami has also recovered from the injury on her leg and walked again. It will take a few days for her to be completely healed and walk briskly again. This is the result of Tsunade's medical ninjutsu treatment just now. The injury is not serious, it's just some skin injuries, and it will be cured quickly with palm fairy technique. Tsunade's white and tender palm was glowing with green light, covering Mingjing's arm. Not long after, a layer of blood scab fell off Mingjing's arm, revealing smooth skin. It looks no different from normal skin except that it is whiter. Medical ninjutsu, or the use of chakra treatment as a means of treating injuries, has existed for a long time, but there are not many ninjas who can use this method, and it is not taken seriously. But Tsunade is the master of medical ninjutsu. She not only perfected the system of medical ninjutsu, but also made more innovations on this basis, pushing medical ninjutsu to a new peak. Even after Sarutobi Hiruzen witnessed the great help that medical ninjutsu brought to Konoha, he even asked Tsunade to create Konoha's medical ninja system, which became a model for the entire ninja world to learn from. Tsunade-sama's medical ninjutsu is really amazing. Ming Jing looked at his arm that had recovered as before and couldn't help but exclaimed. Even though they know that Tsunade is the strongest medical ninjutsu, no matter who sees Tsunade's medical ninjutsu with their own eyes, they can't help but admire it. If more people could learn such medical ninjutsu, many people in the village would probably die less in this war. It's just a pity that the last Jonin meeting did not pass the proposal to establish a medical system. Kato Dan was sitting by the clean window, thinking of another Junin teammate who had sacrificed his life during a previous mission with Mokun Kato. Under the pure white light, Kato Dan's long, smooth blue hair shows a bright color. Paired with his handsome face and melancholy eyes, he can be called a girl killer. At least Tsunade, who was still a pregnant girl at this time, liked this very much. It's okay, stop. Tsunade showed a sweet smile to Kato Suan and said. Although the village did not agree to this proposal, the old man still asked me to select a small group of ninjas to learn medical ninjutsu. They also played a big role in this war. It is estimated that the village will approve me before long. Proposal. Tsunade raised her head and said proudly, and at the same time moved her gaze to Ming Jing and others. I said, why don't the three of you follow me and learn some medical ninjutsu? Even if you only know the basics, you can greatly improve your probability of survival on the battlefield in the future. The three people in Mingjing looked at each other and saw the surprise in each other's eyes. Well, I don't have any gifts for you, so let me teach you a useful basic medical ninjutsu. If you can master it and learn the subsequent advanced skills, you will probably be qualified to become a real medical ninjutsu. Quote. Tsunade said as she led everyone out with full mobility. Kato Dan looked at this scene, with a faint smile on his handsome face, and followed him. If they can become medical ninjas, then the probability of these disciples surviving on the battlefield in the future will be greatly increased. Even if they cannot learn it, they can learn one or two practical basic medical ninjutsu from Tsunade to stop their own bleeding when they are injured in the future. Preventing the injury from worsening and missing the best time for treatment also has huge benefits. This is it. Tsunade led everyone to a small river next to the camp. This is an important source of daily water for stronghold ninjas. Of course, in this place close to the land of rain, there is basically no shortage of water resources. Next, first catch any small animal, such as a fish in the river, a pheasant in the nearby woods, etc. It is not only used as a demonstration, but also as a material for you to practice. By the way, you can also use it as a late-night snack. Tsunade took Kato Dan, found a big stone, wiped it clean and sat on it and said. It had been raining for several days and it didn't end until the afternoon of this day, so tonight was a rare clear night. The stars are bright in the sky, the rivers are rushing, and the grass is green, as if the whole world has been washed away by the rain that has been falling for several days. A few minutes later, Ming Jing and others returned to Tsunade and Kato Dan with their respective harvests. Ming Jing was carrying 2 pheasants in his hands, Aburame Nami caught a hare, and Inazuka Usagi caught some river fish in the river with Tetsumaru. Yoshi, now, let me show you. Tsunade jumped down from the big rock and carried the hare away. I shaved off the fur on this rabbit first so that you can see it more easily. A blue light lit up in Tsunade's hand, and then she used chakra to condense into the shape of a scalpel. This is an A-level medical ninjutsu, chakra scalpel. Watch it. Tsunade first knocked the hare unconscious, then used a chakra scalpel to scrape off a large piece of fur on the rabbit's body, and used it to cut off the hare's spine, making it unable to sense its body, and then made a slash on it. A wound about 2 centimeters deep was cut immediately, and a little blood flowed out. What I want to teach you is the most basic medical ninjutsu, the art of stopping bleeding. A faint chakra appeared on Tsunade's hand, and she pressed it on the hare's wound. Immediately, a scab formed on the hare's wound, stopping the bleeding. At the same time, if the wound is large and deep, you can use needles and threads to perform preliminary sutures first, and then use hemostasis to stop the bleeding. The effect will be faster. For the purpose of this demonstration, I will cut the artery on the hare to increase the amount of bleeding, for observation. As Tsunade said this, she slashed the hare again. Everyone listened very seriously, except Kato Dan. He had long been taught these basic medical ninjutsu by Tsunade, and now he was busy building a stove and drying firewood using fire escape. He was still thinking about Tsunade's words about making these as a midnight snack. Hemostasis, as the most basic medical ninjutsu, is the prerequisite ninjutsu for many subsequent medical ninjutsus, such as healing jutsu, palm senjutsu, etc. Its principle is to stimulate the body to produce coagulation factors faster through trace amounts of chakra, to speed up the process of blood clotting in the wound. Tsunade spoke very seriously. In fact, she is indeed very talented as a teacher, otherwise she would not be able to cultivate Haruno Sakura's superb medical ninjutsu in the original work. Ming Jing observed the entire process in great detail with his Sharingan. Sharingan is best used in two places, one is in combat, and the other is in learning ninjutsu. Next, it's your turn to start the actual hands-on operation. After Tsunade finished speaking, she treated the remaining two pheasants in the same way as the hares, and placed them next to Uchiha Mingjing and Inuzuka Ryo. Mingjing hesitated for a moment with the kunai, and then used the kunai to cut a small wound on the pheasant's skin where the feathers had been plucked, so as to avoid the wound being too large and her level was not enough to stop the bleeding completely. First, condense the chakra in the hand, and then. Tsunade's every move that she had just recorded with the Sharingan flashed through her mind, and Mingjing slowly pressed her hand on the wound. A few minutes later, when Mingjing moved her hand away, the small wound had completely healed. Well done, little brat of the Uchiha family. After taking a look, Tsunade smiled and touched Mingjing's head, and then turned to instruct Inuzuka Ryo and Aburame Nami. Although she was born in the Senju clan, Tsunade did not have strong malice towards the Uchiha clan like Senju Tobarama did. Instead, like her grandfather Senju Hashirama, she abandoned her sectarianism. In the original work, Kakashi used the hemostasis technique when fighting against Obito in the Kamui space. It should be a simple medical ninjutsu to temporarily treat wounds. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.